Thank you for listening to Dan and Aldo Bear the...
Are we live?
We're live, and it's a Tooch flash mob takeover of the Bears Dan and Aldo show. The Bears Barroom, Dan and Aldo bare their souls. Tooch is taking over the controls. I got Jordan Silveira here. I got Aaron Michalski here, too. We got, of course, the star of the show, Dan McGuire. Danny, how are you?
I think we're all stars of the show. I'm well. We have a flood watch or flood warning outside, so that's a little disconcerting. But beyond that, I'm okay.
Excellent. We are going to talk a lot of things tonight, man. We're gonna run down. There's lots of Bears news for today's off season. Lots of Bears news. Let me run down what we're gonna talk about real quick. We're gonna talk Marion Barber's cause of death released, gauging Robert Quinn's trade value, Lance Briggs' comment on the Bears stadium issues, Larry Borum. We're gonna talk Dan Hampton visiting Mongo. Justin Fields over and unders. We're going to take a look at the Bears wide receiver room, including new addition N'Keal Harry, who the Bears traded for today. We're going to look at the Bears wide receiver room, and we are going to bring in guys like these guys. I got Jordan Silveira. I got Aaron Michalski. Jordan is hot off his second episode of Bears Necessities. And we got Aaron Michalski, too. The chat room loves the beard, so we brought the beard back. Fellas, Jordan, how are you?
I'm well. Dan, Tooch, Aaron, good evening. Excited to talk some Bears football. And forgive me, audience, I'm a little kind of starstruck that we've got the man, the myth, the legend, Dan with us. I'm speechless.
I don't deserve any of that, but thank you, sir, and it's good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Right. We have Aaron Michalski, the Tournament Giants bane of Council Bluffs.
What's going on, man?
Aaron, welcome back. I'm so glad you could join us today. I haven't talked to you in so long. I miss you.
Same.
We're going to talk a little streaming TV, too. We're going to let Jordan Silveira talk a little Stranger Things finale season 4, maybe. If, Jordan, we can convince Jordan to stick around long. But first... let's talk a little Marion Barber cause of death revealed. Dan, don't know if you heard the story, but the cause of death was heat stroke. Did he not have an air conditioner in his apartment in Texas? It gets pretty hot there.
That's like one of those stories you would have heard about in camp in 2000.
Yeah.
Remember the guy from Minnesota? Was it Minnesota or Jacksonville? Somebody died during a training camp.
Oh, shit.
Way back when W was president, which changed a lot of, because I know when I played football, not that I was any good or it's worth mentioning or anything. I'm not Phil here. I don't mean that sarcastically. Phil was a great high school player. I was just a guy, but it was like if you drank water, you were a pussy. It's just like all that's changed now. But like he's just a retired guy in his late 30s, and to have a heat stroke, it's kind of bizarre.
Yeah. And it's like I said, especially if they found him inside. I don't know if he was outside and then came in to cool off and just it had taken its toll already. But there wasn't that many more details about. Because I thought they said they found him inside. So for him to it's a shame, obviously. But it's kind of weird circumstances. They didn't give any more details other than heat stroke.
And if he was found indoors with a heat stroke, that almost sounds like
indoors.
Yeah, that almost sounds like foul play, though.
Mm. Yeah, I have no idea.
I'm not trying to intimate that, but it seems like did someone was he? Oh, I'm not trying to say he was on drugs, but just hypothetically, was he someone leave him there high and just kind of had a heat stroke? I mean, why would he not get up and turn the air on?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, maybe it was on, but heat stroke takes either super hot or a long time. So, like I said, the only thing I could think of is he was out and thought he was going to be doing okay, and then came back inside and was maybe laid down and just, unfortunately never woke up. Like I said, it's tough to speculate on that kind of a thing, especially when somebody loses their life. But it's just, Mr. Scorty, I don't know. They earlier this week or last week they found Marion Barber Is that what it was?
Yeah.
They found him. They found him deceased in his home, but there's an apartment or a house, I don't know. And the cause of death came out as heat stroke.
No toxicology reports. They didn't find anything according to J2K.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of, given the details little that I know, is maybe he was outside and thought he was going to be okay and would take a nap, and just unfortunately it would have happened too much. I don't know.
Can we get Dan Aguirre's favorite Marion Barber moment?
Oh my God, not the one in Denver.
Your favorite moment.
That game almost sent me into a regular stroke.
Yeah, I was right there with you.
I shouldn't make light of this gentleman passing. He's got people that love him and stuff, but that was not his greatest game, to say the least.
I was super excited when the Bears signed Marion Barber. I was a fan, watching him play at college at Minnesota. Big fan. I like runners like that are tough. Jordan, tell us a little bit about your favorite Marion Barber moment.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to kind of pull up J2K's thing here because I was just kind of briefly looking back in 2014, and I didn't want to speak out of turn because I definitely thought this may have been a thing. I'm looking it up. He had been detained at one point in the Dallas suburb for potential mental health issues. So, again, who knows? We don't want to speculate on it. It's obviously his life's gone tragically, but it's who knows? Like everybody's saying, there's no real reason why you would have heat stroke. You've got AC, you would get up and turn it on, but unless for some reason he was just in a low spot. Unfortunately, we have a lot of players now that are dealing with mental health and struggling from the effects of the game, and who knows? But we'll just leave that alone for that point. As far as my favorite Marion Barber moment, I mean, you're just talking about a guy. I don't know. His Bears time is whatever. I think back to when he was with the Cowboys and just bashing and mashing guys. Like he was just. It's a different player. Anybody remember Brandon Jacobs? Brandon Jacobs was just this ball of fury that just refused to go down.
Super Bowl champion Brandon Jacobs.
That's who Marion Barber reminded me of. Just this guy that every defensive player was like, oh my God, do I really have to tackle this guy? Please, somebody else take him down. Because he just would refuse and just blocked his ass off. Just a great player. And it's really tragic that he's gone.
I blame all of this on Tim Tebow.
Yep. The worst part of that game for me is I was fresh off a breakup, and she was a Broncos fan, and she texted me with a smiley face. That was fun. I was like, you.
Wow.
Like hot off the breakup, like a week before, if that. And I was at a friend's house, and then I got that text. I was like, well, this just got 1,000 times worse.
Like my friend who's been on the bar, he's come here 2 or 3 times in the bar room, Sylvester. He and I were pissed at each other.
My buddy.
We were mad at each other for like 2 years or so because of this fucking game, because he's a Broncos fan. Right. And the whole week before he was saying like, the Bears, were fleeced. We got the better part of the Cutler trade. And he was telling me how I kept taking it personally. He told me later he was just trying to get a rise out of me, but he was like, I would take Tebow any day of the week over Cutler. And I was like, man, fuck you. I was like heated about it. And then when they came back and lost that same week with Barber not running out of bounds and then fumbling, it just, he's like, see, I told you Tebow was the guy. Like, we didn't talk for like 2 years after that. That's legit.
I can be right there, dude. I totally get that.
And I've known him since like 90. And we didn't talk for 2 or 3 years because I was so pissed at that game.
Jesus.
That was brutal.
So he only played 1 year with the Bears, if I remember. I think it was 2010?
2011.
2011.
He and Roy Williams were both signed the same offseason, the former Cowboy wide receiver and Detroit wide receiver as well.
Right. All right, so we are going to I'm sorry to keep it on a down note.
Mongo.
I want to just share your thoughts on this image.
I'm not looking.
Hampton and McMichael. I mean, my first thought, I agree with Dan. Dan told me sadness. Man, I don't. I'll let Dan say. I got no more words, Dan.
If you all, I don't know if any of you were wrestling fans at all, but by the late 90s, the mid to late 90s, Mongo, was in WCW as a wrestler with the Four Horsemen, and was in monster shape. I don't mean like he was in better shape as a wrestler than he was with the Bears, but his position, called for him to be a little bit heavier. but he was in such good shape. And I know he had gotten heavy here and then he lose weight again, but still in my head, he should be looking like Hampton right there. I mean, Dan Hampton's in his 60s and looks phenomenal.
He looks
to
fantastic,
to see Mongo just withered away so quickly, I feel so badly for him. And he still says things like he wouldn't change anything, even if he knew he would be back in the same spot, which is incredible for him to say, talking about playing with the Bears. Just so loyal to the Bears, and it's just so sad. Like, I don't want to speculate on anyone's death, and I don't mean to make fun of Marion Barber, and I apologize if I came across as doing so. But Mongo I take this one really personally. You know, the way someone would in Marion's family or something. Like, I just hate seeing him in this condition, and I fear that he won't even see the end of the next football season.
He's got I mean, he still looks like he still has like trying to make a goofy smile, like I'm still here, I'm still fighting, man, I'll get Jordan's thoughts for Mongo.
You're gonna kill me here. I swear to God, it's not an actor. It makes me want to cry. I have a very hard time dealing with the Mongo situation. It's tough, and I'm apologies to the crowd. I'm gonna get a little deep here, and just on a personal level, I struggle a lot with mental health myself, and just the idea of just death scares the hell out of me. But I don't know. Whenever I have our day and it sounds awful, I think about Mongo because it's just a reminder that life is frail. It's quick to come and quick to go, and you can be Superman one day, and I can't even imagine how a man like him gets news one day that I have a certainty of death for you that's going to come harsh, painful. Your body's going to stop working. Your muscles are going to deteriorate. And
kind of like Walter.
Yeah, and eventually your mouth may not even be able to work, and it's incredibly tough to even imagine that. And Dan Pompei wrote a beautiful piece in The Athletic about Mongo and his story, and his wife Misty, who takes care of him, and just how much of a fighter Mongo is. And that is, I can't even imagine. I think I have hard days, and like I said, I put myself in the position of Mongo and to go, my days are nothing compared to that. And to think of how strong Mongo is to sit there, and he, it's talked about in the Dan Pompei piece that he looks at it and says, look, I don't know how much time I have left, but I'll be damned if I'm not going to fight as hard as I can to see his daughter grow up, to enjoy every last ounce of life that he has. And he's just a tough guy. And I love Mongo to death. And listen, there's so many great Bears, but to me, as a former defensive lineman, I loved a lot of them, but Mongo to me was special. And it's a fucking, excuse my language, but it's a fucking travesty.
No, this is Dan and Aldo Bear.
Okay.
I was going to say, this is Dan and Aldo Bear their souls. Right. It is rated R. We encourage you to say the F word.
It's just, it's a fucking travesty that man is not in the Hall of Fame. And I don't know how you can, and look, I get it. Sam Mills and everybody else that's been in there, they're all deserving, but put up his stats, look at what he meant to the teams that he played for, his career after football, just who he is. How do you not put that guy in the Hall of Fame? And if they let that man pass without doing it, it'd be another disappointment, a shame. It just, I'm sorry. Like I said, I get emotional talking about Mongo. It means so much to me.
Oh, I appreciate your passion, and I agree with you. And like that, I didn't mean to interrupt you before. I was going to say it's kind of similar, but in a different way when you heard that Walter was sick, because you see Walter just being like 5'10", 5'11", 250 pounds with like 2% body fat. Just looks like he could, pick up a car if he had to, like in a movie, like a film stunt. And then within 6 months, you got Gian Greco saying, I could take him. He looks like Gandhi. And then within another year, he's dead. It's unbelievable. Like, to your point, you just never know, man. You just never know.
Aaron, when did you first, tell us your memories of Steve McMichael.
I mean, I unfortunately don't have them as vivid or fresh as the other two gentlemen here, but it's just one of those. I remember watching the old tapes.
You're a big wrestling fan too.
Yeah, I wasn't ever a big WCW though. I was the attitude with WWF when it was the good shit WWF. But like, I just remember watching some of the old, because I've watched the highlights and stuff from just entire games of the '85 season and some of the other games around that, and just watching it. It's just one of those, like, the style of play that he had. You almost didn't even have to look at the jersey. You just knew who it was. You could see the number and you could see the name, and it's just like, but you didn't even have to. You'd seen, just the style of play. You knew who it was.
Here goes your fun fact, Aaron. since you're a wrestling fan, Goldberg's first feud on television was with Mongo.
No,
That's right.
They were feuding over his Super Bowl ring.
Oh boy.
Goldberg stole his ring.
Bitch. That's funny.
All right. I'm glad Hampton got to visit Mongo.
Yeah, Jim McMahon saw him too right after our interview with Aldo.
Yeah, they all go see him, and it's just, I mean, talks about how great of a man he is that all of his former teammates are going out of their way to still see him, and it's just the camaraderie and the brotherhood of football and the Chicago Bears of those great golden era years. It's just important. This
might have been a little bit before your guys' time, but Steve McMichael on Tecmo Bowl, he was like super fast. Like if you were playing the Bears, of course, which I played all the time, you know, you had Dennis Gentry returning kicks and
Willie Gault
on the bomb and McMahon.
Jim McMahon, yeah.
McMichael was super fast rushing from the thing. This is Tecmo Bowl, which I don't know, came out in the 80s.
Oh, yeah, it was 87, and then the second one was the second one was even better. Tecmo Super Bowl, like Neil Anderson was great. I mean, he wasn't like Bo Jackson great, but Neil Anderson was great on there.
Right.
And Nomad has such a good point here. Like Mongo rode his celebrity until the wheels fell off. I mean, that's one thing we gotta give credit to Mongo for is man just lived life hard.
Yeah, Nomad totally agrees with you there. Rode a celebrity until the wheels fell off. Yeah, he lived a big life, had a great lifestyle. You know, the big personality, which all Bears fans loved. All right, let's.
Let me get one more thing on Mongo real quick. Just to Aaron, another wrestling fact: his first wife, was Deborah, who later married Steve Austin.
Cold, yeah. Wow, that's funny.
Yeah, and she said that during when Benoit killed his family, which was terrible in 07, she was going on all these shows because they were talking about steroids and such. She claimed that Stone Cold would get in character and roid rage and beat the shit out of her at the house.
I've heard
in
that.
Character, doing like what and all that shit, like hitting her, which is horrible.
Before. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I wonder what Mongo thought of that. You know.
Yeah, probably nothing good.
I feel like he could have fucked Steve Austin up.
Yeah, that's a tough. I was just wondering who would win in a fight between those two.
Is Tevin Jenkins wearing his number?
Yeah, 76.
Okay, so 76. All right, so yeah, that's.
Hey, and I mean, guess what? From one bad motherfucker to another, like Tevin's a bad dude. So
there you go.
There have been so many shitty guys that have worn Hampton's number 99, like Shea McClellan. Right. Then McClellan was 50. He was like the first Bear to wear Singletary's number after Singletary. Shea McClellan.
Right.
Boise State? Where was he from?
He was Boise State.
Why do I remember that? I don't remember anything.
Shea McClellan has a Super Bowl ring I think he got with the Patriots.
Yeah, of course.
The only thing he ever did was hurt Aaron Rodgers, which was great.
Yeah, that's true too. Good enough. It'd be an interesting thing to find out how many people left the Bears and won Super Bowl with another team.
I don't know who's wearing 99 now, but I remember Lamar Houston.
Oh, the celebration in New England.
Tore his ACL jumping up and down. Sack celebration tears his ACL.
I think it was in Chicago after that, and there was a billboard that said, Houston, we have a problem. It's just him sitting on the field. I was like, somebody else did the same thing.
The Grammatica brother, not Martine, but like Bill.
Yeah.
With the Cardinals, he kicked a field goal, started jumping up and down, and blew his knee out.
Yep. And then shortly after that, it's the same thing happened, like right before it.
Yeah. Travis is wearing 99. Travis Gibson, and
at least he's got some skill.
Yeah, I will tell you, I have very high hopes for Travis Gibson. I think he's going to set up for.
All right, so I want to get you guys' thoughts on Lance Briggs' comment on the Bears stadium issue, and I forget which show. I think it was on David Kaplan's podcast, Unfiltered, I think it's called. And he said that the time for Chicago to deal with this issue of the Bears leaving has passed. You know, it's too little, too late, and that the Bears are probably better off in Arlington Heights. Dan Aguirre, your thoughts? Preserve
from what I've read,
field or move?
I'm certainly not an attorney, but from what I've read, part of the partial agreement that the Bears have in trying to close on this land in Arlington Heights was that they couldn't talk to anybody else during the escrow time. So therefore, legally, if that's correct, they can't even talk to the Mayor Lori about something at Soldier Field. But I agree. I mean, putting a dome on the stadium, even if that were feasible, because you've got the lake there. It's not like you can suddenly, create more room. You still only have 4,000 seats. You're never going to host the Super Bowl in that venue. And you've seen the Lions host a Super Bowl. The Vikings have hosted a Super Bowl. Plus, I don't even know if Chicago really wants a dome per se. Maybe they probably want a retractable dome so they can still take advantage of their cold weather against, other opponents that aren't used to that sort of shit. But the short answer
matters, though.
In that podcast, Lance Briggs said that on the table is Chicago building a dome on the lakefront.
There's a lot of podcasts and articles that I've read that make it seem like Chicago, this is kind of just like a half-assed, we tried. Like, they don't actually think that people are actually going through with it. They're just kind of throwing it out there in the event that if the Bears do leave and go to Arlington Heights, that they can be like, no, we made an honest effort, kind of a deal. At least I've heard on multiple podcasts that's a line of thinking that's not an actual real consideration.
And San Francisco plays like 30 minutes away in Santa Clara. The Giants and the Jets play in New Jersey and don't play in New York. I mean, I've been to Aldo's house in Arlington Heights. It's not that far from Chicago. It's not like you couldn't still call them Chicago Bears. Mm-hmm. But I guess I could see why the city might want to keep them. But in terms of fan base, I don't think any of us would be affected by that, right?
Not at all.
We would all still be Bear fans. We wouldn't be like, fuck the Bears for leaving Chicago.
No, not at all.
Nobody would. We'd all still be Bears fans.
That's what I'm saying. It's not that big of a stretch especially when you compare it to San Francisco or the Jets and Giants, where they don't even play in the fucking same state that they're supposedly be in.
Mm-hmm. Right. At least this is, Arlington Heights is down the road, so to speak.
Yeah.
I have been long been on record as being a proponent of the Bears moving to Arlington Heights and building a complete fan experience, including a casino, restaurants, a fan shop, a fan experience, maybe a Hall of Fame, all of this fun stuff. There's a train stop that would be solely dedicated to the stadium. The Metra has a stop at Arlington Park right now. Perhaps they could widen Route 53 over there. There's a bunch of things that could be done by Arlington Heights to make traffic less burdensome, but placing all that stuff there, whether it's a large fan shop, a fan experience, they could have all sorts of Bears events there, hosting a Final Four, hosting a Super Bowl, hosting a college football championship. It makes the most sense for the franchise. That's why they put a bid in on the property in Arlington Heights. And then when the Michalskis feel like it, perhaps after Virginia passes away, they sell it at its peak value, and we get some real ownership in there that's serious about winning. Jordan Silveira, your thoughts? What do you like better?
Yeah, I think I come from a little bit of a unique perspective here, as living in California, and my maiden voyage to an NFL game was Soldier Field, and I most recently was there for the NFL 100 season opener against Green Bay. But I know that was a tough one, especially.
Oh my God!
Spending that much money for the very, very top nosebleeds as it gets to watch that snoozer of a game. But anyways, I think that it's tough for me because I looked at it like I want to go see Chicago. I want to go hang out downtown, so it's easy for me to get a hotel room, walk to the stadium. All of that is the real benefit. But even I can concede that. I'll give you the positive about Soldier Field. If you're a Soldier Field goer, it's pretty nice because it's intimate. It's not this huge experience where you have so many people crowding into the stadium. And even I am telling you, I sat nosebleeds as far back as you can go back to the lake, and I still had a decent view. So all of that is beneficial, but we can't sit here and act like it doesn't make sense from every single possible scenario. You're not going to get a Super Bowl there, so you do need to increase your attendance. From my understanding, if you're a local, it's a nightmare to get down to Chicago, park your car, get in. I mean, that was something even I experienced coming to the stadium, is even with multiple entrances, it was just a nightmare to even get actually into the stadium.
Yeah, you have to get on like a prison bus.
Yes.
The school bus, and they just shuttle you in, and it looks like you're going to jail.
Yeah, so it's tough. And this is, I don't even know if I want to say that Mayor Lightfoot and Chicago kind of just throwing a bid to say they did it, but it certainly is too little too late. Like if this was really your plan, where was this 10 years ago? Where was this in the original renovations? And then, you know what it feels like is it feels as if Chicago kind of bet the Michalskis and the Bears and said, "Oh yeah, you're really unhappy. Do something about it. Do something about it. See if we
Tried
can
to call their bluff. Yeah.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it was like, that bid went through.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'll do whatever. Please stay. A dome. We'll do whatever it takes. It's like, no, we can't. You can't do that now. And like you said, Tooch, get a casino, get a sports book, get restaurants, get hotels. And it hurts me as a visitor, a tourist, to say I won't be in downtown Chicago proper, but they're still the Chicago Bears. Yep. I've never actually been to Arlington Park or Arlington Heights, excuse me. So I'll be interested to see it.
Well, there's plenty of room for a few tailgate lots.
Oh yeah,
right. You know, they could even do is put some like campground grills. People don't have to pack the grill.
Well, and one thing
pull your car up, there's a little grill already there. Just throw your charcoal in and
that's a good idea.
Get going, you know?
Well, one thing I do want to add is, as a California, I was at the Bears game when they went to Vegas last year, and I was also at the Bears game when they opened up the season against LA. I was at the opening for SoFi. Seeing those stadiums makes you realize how far behind Soldier Field is. And I know that even if you're remotely about them getting out of Soldier Field, I can tell you, as a fan, you will thoroughly enjoy a brand new stadium when it's state-of-the-art tech, good seats everywhere, comfy seats. Getting to your food outlets is easier, not like Soldier Field where you got to go down to that same level and walk the middle just to get around to your food outlet. There's so much good to be had with the new stadium. As somebody who's been to two of the newest in the NFL, I feel like I can speak to that directly.
Danny, would you attend a game at the new Arlington Park Bears fan experience and stadium?
Of course. I like Soldier Field, though. Like the ambiance of the way it looked on television before. I didn't get to a game at the old Soldier Field, but the field from say 70 to 2001. I just like the way the colonnades looked inside as opposed to outside. I love the way the old stadium looked. But like the point that Jordan made, like inside the stadium, it does kind of have the feel that there aren't any bad seats. So in that regard, I'm going to Soldier Field 2 times this season. So, I like the stadium, but again, I understand the reason why the Bears would move, and I'm going to move with them if they do. So in terms of, being a fan.
Right. As Nomad points out, revenue, new business, various entertainment jobs. There's a lot of things good that can come out of this. And as Jordan pointed out, going downtown always kept me away. I lived out in the suburbs. It would be a pain in the ass for me. It would be an all-day trek, and the commute wouldn't be fun. I would probably take the train in and then, taxi from there or walk from the train station down to Soldier Field or to one of the tailgate lots. But with Arlington Park, there's lots of new things.
Yeah, if I could tag to one little bit of that, I'd like to just kind of talk about too. Another thing is, and I'm not calling the Michalskis poor. I'm not saying that they don't spend money. I'm not saying the Chicago Bears are like the poverty franchise in the NFL. Far from it. But that's another thing, too, that a lot of people don't realize. It's kind of the Paul Brown effect with the Cincinnati Bengals is they don't have any other stakes in entertainment. They're not getting revenue from anywhere else other than the Chicago Bears. And then, of course, they're sharing the NFL owners and everything like that. Getting into a new stadium in Arlington Heights, it creates this scenario where all of a sudden you can start dipping your hands and fingers into different opportunities, whether it be lodging, restaurants, eateries, food, casinos, you name it. It's really, the world is your oyster. And it creates this opportunity to bring in outside revenue, which God knows what they'll use it for, whether it's fan experiences, paying better coaching. I mean, that's the thing that nobody wants to talk about is, yes, you're constrained to the cap every year for your NFL salary for your players, but kind of the free bonus is if you're rich, the Jerry Jones effect with the Cowboys, for example, is you can pay whatever coaches you want, as many as you want in different areas, and you can hire the best talent in the world. So, and if there's one thing we know is that the Michalskis absolutely care about the Bears being successful. So I think it'd be a great opportunity to, grow the team that way.
Right. No, I know some people in the chat room are saying that, will they have the dome open, let that snow come in? I mean, is it really that much of an advantage, the cold weather, Dan Aguirre? Because I'll tell you, I was there in the NFC Championship versus the 49ers. It was fucking 100 below, and the 49ers whipped our ass 28-3.
Yeah, I know. I still haven't gotten over that game. It was McMahon's final game as a Bear. But suffice to say, there have been 2 moments indelibly locked in my mind where again, Michael Vick in 2005 was like, dude, can I go fight some dogs or some shit? Like, why am I here right now?
Yep.
It was cold. I shouldn't say that. He did go to jail and served his time. I'm sorry, Mr. Vick, if you're listening. He played college right up for me at Virginia Tech. Anyway, and a couple years ago in the Rams, when Jared Goff was frozen to the bone and didn't want to play, and Brett Favre in 2007, he played terribly there in his final regular season game as a Packer, and said in the post-game presser, he's like, I ain't never played in a game this cold. I wish I wasn't even here today. So there have been a couple of moments where the cold weather in the stadium and stuff actually did make an impact.
Well, and let's not forget, Dan's bringing up great points, but let's really not forget the most recent one that sticks out to me. It's undeniable. The Rams were the hottest team in the NFL, looking like just for sure Super Bowl.
Well, I just said that, though, with Jared Goff.
Oh, yes,
that's the one I mentioned.
Dude, they looked like they were just stuck in the mud. That natural grass and the cold weather, it just, I don't know. That to me is really what it matters about, too, is it's not even just the weather, it's the grass. You have all these teams that are playing on turf now, and they get these, everybody looks like they're Speedy Gonzalez running up and down the field. And you stick them on that hard grass, that natural grass in Soldier Field, and it almost just evens the playing field. And then that's really what we're trying to hopefully get back to in Chicago Bears football, is getting a team that packs a hard hat every time they play, and all of a sudden every team that comes in goes, God, the stadium kind of sucks. The grass is a little tough. They're not moving as fast. And, oh, by the way, the Bears players are a pain in the ass to play against because they're knocking our heads off every time we're playing against them. It's just, that's, to me, that's the epiphany of what Bears football is. And it's really what we've been missing with not even just the Nagy era, but even going back to Trestman and really since Lovey, is the idea of, hey, let's get back to some hard-nosed football of it's tough. Pack a hard hat every day you come to play the Bears. You know, it's the team that if they're fighting in a bar, you're picking the Bears to win most of those because they just got a ton of of tough SOBs that you don't want to fight.
I don't think Eddie Jackson can be representative of that point.
No, but I'll give you an example.
There was an Eddie Jackson joke in there somewhere. Dan found it.
Yeah, no, probably not. But I mean, and this is the thing, and who knows what Eddie Jackson's future is in Chicago. But if there's one thing you can look at, the people that Aaron over here like ducking his head around, the people that you can already see Ryan Poles drafting and bringing in are tough guys. And I'm not even just saying that lightly. Like, I mean, look at Tevin was already that guy, but look at Jaquan Brisker, where he's literally like foaming at the mouth to play in the box. And on Bare Necessities last week, I was talking about how much the safety's playing down by the line. They're bringing and Lucas Patrick, a guy that was the sixth man his entire time in Green Bay. And finally, he gets his golden ticket to say, would you like to be a top 5 guy, a starting 5 offensive lineman? This is your one chance. And if you do well, you'll get paid. He's just grabbing all these hungry guys. You got Lucas Patrick talking about how it's a collision sport, and he's looking to just plant people in the ground. And Zach Thomas, a guy, a mauler in the run game out of San Diego State. It's all over the place.
Well, I want to put up something that Nomad said, and this is what I would really be hoping for. And I'm sure we got Joey Mandel in the chat room, and I know Joe would be happy with this too. Arlington might look like a little miniature Vegas. That would be fun. Imagine all the people that might come in, to do some gambling, watch a Bears game or a college basketball Final Four.
Isn't that who they wanted to do the stadium?
What was that, Aaron?
Isn't that who they got to do this? They're to plan the stadium out. Isn't it the same people that did Vegas?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm 100% sure that the people that they're having design the stadium, if it goes through, is the same people that made Vegas' new stadium.
Well, hopefully it's not the same people that designed Soldier Field 2.
Yeah, hopefully not.
It ended up being a terrible, like the opening night against the Packers in 2003, you're like stoked, and they're like, oh, immediately the spaceship jokes.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
The spaceship landed in the middle of the stadium. Man, that whole thing with that's what happens when you try to hold on to something. I love Soldier Field and everything too, but the Bears Stadium currently is the smallest in the NFL. And they have to share revenue on concessions with the Park District,
and it's not even theirs.
Yeah, they don't own it either. I mean, every NFL franchise desires to own their own stadium or have their own revenue, all of that. I mean, to me, bigger and better. onward and upward.
I will say one thing to know, Matt, who was saying it's like Vegas, and that's not totally a bad thing, but I would say careful what you wish for. As a person, I was just last season I went to Tennessee and Nashville, and that is a place that's become kind of that. It was a small little quaint area, and all of a sudden it blew up to all the bachelorette parties, weekend getaways, and it's certainly a party place and generates a lot of revenue, but it also creates this kind of hectic area of like, can we just have our old city back? Where
telling me there are a bunch of whores there.
Yes, I am. Dan, we gotta book you a flight there so we could.
I've been to Nashville. Not during I didn't see the Bears there, but I went to a Nine Inch Nails concert there, at where their hockey team plays, which is basically right beside it.
Yep.
So I've been outside the stadium, but not there for the Bears game.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place, but it's one of those things where, I mean, depending on who you're talking to, it's a little bit of a nightmare where if you're a local trying to spend some time anywhere in Nashville, it's hectic. It's crazy. Traffic's bad. A lot of out-of-towners that are just drinking, getting drunk, thrown up on the streets. So a little bit of a careful what you wish for. Maybe you don't want it to be Vegas quietly, but, we'll see.
All right. Well, in the chat room, they're talking the N'Keal Harry trade. So let's get into it a little bit. The big news today, breaking news today: Bears trade a 2024 7th-round pick for
a guy that used to be a first-round pick.
It
right?
was a first-round pick, man. This is basically a win-win.
Obviously you didn't play like a first-round pick, though.
Low risk, high reward. Let's get. Can we get a little scouting report on N'Keal Harry?
Yeah, I think it's funny. I promise I'm not trying to rain on people's parade. I certainly have positives to say about N'Keal Harry, but I laugh how everybody's just so gung-ho about, we gave a 2024 7th-round pick for a failed first-rounder who had all the potential 3 years ago. Yeah, but in the NFL, he hasn't proven a ton. So with that said, I certainly think that I can pick apart at it all the time about he didn't prove himself in New England, all these things, but at least trying to keep it on a positive note. What I will say that I take positively from it, it's something that I've kind of been ringing this horn from the top of the mountain as long as I could for this, is the Bears have been desperately missing Alpha X. I've been saying it for months now. A guy that's a ball winner, somebody that can go get you a bucket. When you need a catch, it's 3rd and 8, it's 4th and 3. I have to have this play that I know I can go to this guy and he'll find a way to come down with it. Now that, as much as we all think that that's a DK Metcalf or a 6'5", 220 guy, it really can be anybody. I mean, look at Cooper Kupp last year. They lost OBJ and the guy found a way, and lost OBJ in the Super Bowl. Their game plan looked like crap once OBJ went out. And when it came down to crunch time and you needed a bucket, Cooper Kupp was that guy. So it really comes in all shapes and sizes. As far as N'Keal Harry, I think that he is that guy that is truly a ball winner. Has a lot of issues with getting separation in space because his long speed isn't there. And there's you can look at college tape. I've actually got some clips here of his New England days because we can talk college all day and night, but the reality is he's not playing in college anymore. If you want to go see his college tape, he looks phenomenal, but I'm interested in what he looked like in the NFL. And he has, like I said, we'll pull up these clips here in a minute once everybody gets their piece out, but the way I look at it is I'm going to show you examples of where he physically fights for the ball at the catch point. That's what I'm talking about. A guy that when it comes down to it, he is not waiting for the ball to get to him. He is attacking the catch point, snagging it out of the air and going, nope, I'm bigger than you. It's mine. And that is the positive about him.
There's not a lot of risk.
Just last thing I'd add is Jalen. Everybody likes the comp game. We can go comps in 100 different ways. The guy that I actually comped him to back when he keeps coming out was Jalen Strong, another ASU, Arizona State receiver. I believe he was a 3rd rounder. He never quite panned out, but very similar play styles. If anybody remembers Jalen Strong, that's the guy they can find from.
Right, Jalen Strong. Yep. And I believe Brandon Ayuk is another guy from the same school, right?
Yep.
So, they kind of play a wide open passing offense style out there in the Pac-12 now, right? Pac-10, Pac-12 football. Dan, you want to reserve thoughts until after the video clip when you see a little?
No. I mean, think of it this way: Javon Wims was a 7th-round pick. So if you're telling me we're wasting a 7th-round pick on a guy that was a 1st-round pick, so obviously he's got skill, even if he turns out just to be a complete and unmitigated bust, he can always say he was a 1st-round pick, which means something. It means he had something, So again, if it ends up being like he doesn't perform well here, maybe you lose someone akin to Javon Wims, a 7th round pick that just frustrates the shit out of you. So it's a very low risk.
Yeah,
If he hits, it's a win-win. But if he doesn't, at the end of the day, who gives a fuck? It's a 7th round pick.
Great point, Danny. You can't, I mean, the floor is Javon Wims, right? Kind of.
Right, exactly.
Well, I gotta combat with Dan just a little bit on that. My only issue with that is, and this is the one real negative beyond just the fact of, we talk about the 7th rounder as a low investment, fine, but I just can't help but consistently feel like my issue with Ryan Poles is shit or get off the pot. What I mean by that is like either go full hog and try to get something big done, or don't do it at all. And that's really my problem is we're sitting here and we're looking at, okay, I'm not going to re-sign James Daniels, even though he's a young player with, 2nd round pick, had upside. I'm going to put all my eggs in the Ryan Bates basket. When the Ryan Bates basket doesn't work, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I guess we need an X receiver, but I'm not going to pay Allen Robinson, and I can't repair that relationship. So I guess I'll take a 7th round pick and send a flyer to get N'Keal Harry. The guy that they just shipped out because they traded for Devontae Parker, the guy that's going to hopefully produce in N'Keal Harry's role.
I got to play devil's advocate to your devil's advocate then.
Give me 2 seconds here. I promise.
Sure. Go ahead.
It's just the idea of, if you want to make a move, go get Denzel Mims from the Jets. Why don't you go get DK Metcalf? Oh, well, that's going to be too expensive. Yeah, well, at least I know what I'm getting. If you're going to sit here and say the 7th round pick doesn't matter, if it doesn't matter, then why don't you not take Trenton Gill, go pick a punter in UDFA, and go get a receiver in the 7th round there, whether it was, Tanner Connor comes to mind. There was a few other guys. It just feels like part of what you're saying, Dan, I'm going to give it back to you here before we get Aaron in, is the idea that you say that the 7th round pick doesn't matter. But
no. The risk of
it's a 2024 7th round pick, though.
I'm saying the risk is very low. The risk is very low. The chance of him hitting, even if it's 50-50, I'm willing to take that chance because what you're losing is a 7th round pick, but potentially gaining a 1st round talent. But with regards to the other things, I think I don't want to just be some lover or defender or advocate of Ryan Poles here, but I think he has been precluded on some of the moves based upon the salary cap this season. But a lot of these guys that have been brought in, like St. Brown, very low cost, but hey, bro, you have a good season right now. We've got so much cap room next year. You can make your future today in 2022. So I think a lot of these guys are low risk and they're hungry. They're hungry. Like their whole livelihood's out in front of them if they play well here now. And I like that. I mean, if you can't go all out like the Rams did last season, but next year you can. And if they play well, you can give them money next year. And again, worst case scenario, the guy sucks and he's gone. It's not like you gave up like the Khalil Mack trade or even the Cutler trade. You didn't give up a 1st round pick. So I think it's a good move.
All right. We got Dan Aguirre liking the trade. Are we going to get Aaron Michalski's thoughts now or after we watch some film?
Aaron, I want him now.
Now, you know what? It's for me. It's another shrug moment. I don't know. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Kind of a deal. I'm not excited about it. I don't know enough about him. I mean, it's one of those where it's like he was a 1st round pick. It's like fucking what do you do? We got him for a 7th. That means he hasn't played like a 1st rounder. So
good point.
Like everybody's saying, it's low. Like even Danny said, low risk, high reward potentially. It's 7th. A lot of that would have been a crapshoot. Like drafting somebody in a 7th round, right? You can get good draft picks at the 7th round, but throwing it at another team for somebody that we think already has something, I think it's probably a good move.
All right. I have a lot
Sometimes
of
people just need a change of scenery.
Right.
Yeah, we've seen that. Absolutely.
That was one of
like
my,
every Bears player that leaves and tears it up everywhere else.
One of my thoughts. Now, some people say, hey, it's a flag when Bill Belichick gives up on you. And to be fair, N'Keal Harry never got out of Brady's doghouse. He kind of made a few plays with Cam Newton and Mac Jones, but for sure hasn't lived up to his potential as a 1st round pick. He kind of snuck into the back of the 1st round when nobody thought he was really a 1st rounder, but he does have size, as Jordan pointed out, 6'4", 225 pounds.
Yeah.
The Bears don't really have a lot of guys that size. What, just Equanimous? St. Brown, he's not even that big either. So
he's not 6'4". He's 6'2".
Right. Are you talking St. Brown or?
No, I'm talking, and it's not your problem, Tooch. It's just that the guy conflated his size and said a few
Okay.
different. It's combine,
Right.
and again, just we go by combine here. Combine measurements 6'2", 228.
That's his size. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So ESPN has him as 6'4", 225.
Yeah.
ESPN is fake news. So
I don't mean to be that. It's not even you, Tooch. It's a lot of people throughout Twitter, throughout the chat. They're like, he's 6'4". Like, well, no, guys, he's not DK Metcalf. Let's slow down. He's 6'2". It's much more Allen Robinson than it is this Greek god 6'4", 6'5", Justin Hunter, DK Metcalf. It's not that guy.
Right. So, I mean, Jordan, earlier you said, you have a problem with Ryan Poles taking a lot of swings at the pinata. But, these are dart throws. And in a year like this is the first year of the Eberflus Poles regime. I'm okay with taking some dart throws. I mean, the Bears were up against the cap. Next year, they have a lot more cap room. We're going to talk about Justin Fields' growth potential a little bit later on in the show. But for a seventh-round pick in 2024, I mean, sure, might he get cut? Sure, he really has to. It's an opportunity for him. He better make the most of it. And that's the bottom line.
My big question for you guys is, when's he going to get arrested? Like every other person.
Oh my God.
Right.
What's the over-under on that? Just give it a couple of weeks. What's going on?
And that's the one thing I want to say to Dan, just kind of in response is, and it's no problem, Dan. It's everybody has this. That's why Devontae Parker still has trade value. The whole there's first round picks is just this issue of he was a first round pick. Yeah, right. It just means the guy continues to be recycled throughout the league. When
Devontae Parker's on the Patriots now, correct?
Yes, literally it was the Keel Watt's out. We didn't like his production.
Right.
He's a shitty X in our system. So let's get him the fuck out of town, bring Devontae Parker in, and get a real X. So as much and this is what I mean. If we're taking these like half measures, and if anybody wants to break it, like no more half measures. If you want an X receiver, go get one. Go get Devontae Parker. Go get Denzel Mims. Go get DK Metcalf. Go get a true impact player. And I know it's like, well, let's go get guys that are hungry and this is their livelihood. That works if you don't have a number 11 pick at the most important position of all of sports that needs to produce. And nobody wants to hear this, and I promise I wasn't.
It's not that simple to go and get DK Metcalf. Seattle's probably going to want a first and a second. And like, how many times have the Bears given up first-round picks? So I get that Poles could be reticent. He's like, fuck, we haven't had a first-round pick since like goddamn Eisenhower was president. So let's try to have a first-round pick next year. So I'm not trying to be argumentative with you at all, and I'm certainly not taking away from your credibility of anything you're saying. I'm just saying I don't even want to defend Poles because this offseason, as Aaron pointed out, a lot of arrests, things not looking good. But still, I mean, just it's not so simple just to say, well, let's go get DK Metcalf because Seattle's like, okay, come get him. Well, but what are you going to give us?
So here's the thing, Dan. I think you're totally right. Those are salient points. The one, and I'll just give you just a brief example, a little hint of what I've just been trying to work on with Bare Necessities recently.
Sure.
The Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are one of the model franchises right now the past few years on how to properly rebuild a franchise. In many ways, the Buffalo Bills, back when Brandon Beane took over 4 or 5 years ago, took on a situation that's very eerily similar to what the Bears are going through, cap hell, things like that, having to cut big stars like Marcel Darius, Khalil Mack. We can go down those lines. But the thing is you can look around the league. I'm just going to give you Buffalo as an example. You get these teams from 5-7 years ago that said, we don't truly need a true number one receiver. We can get by with John Brown, Cole Beasley, guys like that. And then even those teams were like, holy shit, we really need to get a true weapon for our quarterback to succeed. And you saw the Bills go, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to go ahead and trade a first-round pick to get Stephon Diggs and stop playing games with Josh Allen, hoping he can make magic with B and C players. And that right now is the issue. You've got Ryan Poles sitting here going, hey, Justin, if you're really that dude, why don't you make it happen with just B and C level players? Yes, you have Darnell Mooney. Good player. As much as I love Darnell Mooney, he's not Stephon Diggs. He's not Justin Jefferson. He's not Terry McLaurin. He's a good player. But who else do you have there? And
but Buffalo had made the playoffs like 2 years in a row prior to the Stephon Diggs trade. Now, they didn't win. They lost against Jacksonville, and who else they lose to? Houston. So the point being, they already felt like they were on the upswing, like let's be aggressive and get Stephon Diggs, whereas Poles is, like I said, a little bit, we're just getting our feet wet here. It's a different scenario with the Diggs trade because, again, you're talking about a team that was already ascending. I think the Bears could be ascending just because the bald fuck's gone, and I've said that repeatedly. But I think it's not necessarily a fair comparison only because they had already gone to the playoffs 2 times in a row and just happened to lose, but had a thriller against the Texans, though.
Sure. Yeah, right. I mean, we could talk about this back and forth. I don't want to detract the show, Tooch, but it's a very complicated topic and about what is the right way to team build.
Don't think I have any malice or anything.
No, not at all, Dan.
Okay, good.
Well, we've whetted the appetite. Should we watch a little? Jordan has got a few clips of N'Keal Harry highlights. Maybe this will help us round our opinions into shape.
Yeah, you want to get into them, Tooch, or you want me to start clicking through them?
Go ahead, click away, my friend.
So we'll start here, and forgive me, this was literally thrown together just a little bit before the show. So we've got this Mac Jones. We'll get a better angle here on the catch. But this is what I'm talking about when we say we're looking for a ball winner. This is N'Keal Harry for a guy that doesn't have a ton of speed, he's got Isaiah Rodgers playing off here. And then we're watching him where, again, that's 4.5 speed. It's not great, but finds a way to beat Isaiah Rodgers here. And then this is what I'm talking about. Go get a bucket for Justin Fields. Throw it up there. Give your man a chance. And look at how he just completely bodies the corner. The corner's in no position to make a play there and then finds a way to come down with it. That
catch alone's worth a 7th-round pick.
He looked huge compared to that corner.
That catch alone is worth a 7th-round pick if he can do that here.
Hell yeah.
Well, and listen, as much as I sound negative, and we're going to go through a couple more here, that's what I'm talking about when I say I see a guy that has the capability to do what the Bears have been desperately missing, which is a guy that's going to win at the catch point. That's what they don't have. And as much as I love Darnell Mooney, we're talking about a guy that consistently last year found a way to not catch the ball in crucial times like at the end.
I completely agree there. Completely agree. He had a lot of bad moments last season that people haven't acknowledged.
Yeah. And so we're looking at Tom Brady here. This is N'Keal Harry's rookie year. I believe this is his first touchdown. And I guess we'll rewind it back so I can show you his release. But again, this is body control. It's back shoulder, gets his toes in. It's pretty good coverage. This is, so I didn't cut it with enough tape to show a replay of it. But
he's already had 2 different jersey numbers, I see.
Yeah, he was 15 when he came in, and then they changed the number rules, so he went back to his college number.
Well, he can't have one here.
Yeah, no, he can't.
Right.
So let's look at the release here. So he's got actually playing press on him, and then is able to get that outside release. Now, this is where, again, good and bad. Anybody that knows me knows I love Drake London, USC wide receiver. I like this style of player, big ball winners. It's one thing to be able to be speedy and fast and take the top off. That's important. But I also like guys that again, I'm going to keep coming back to this term, get you a bucket. I need you to win for me. Right now, I need you to get the ball and secure it. And those players are valuable to me. And so this is an example where that speed is concerning because he's not breaking away even on press coverage here with limited space. But this is the beautiful part of him is that even with that going on, he finds a way to secure the ball here. And I'll try to make it so slow so that we can see. Here's that size again, all right, fine, you're going to be in my hip pocket, but I'm going to out-physical you here, and you can't stop me. And that's how we come down with that touchdown. So that's another example of kind of why I like him. We've got 2 more. I'll go through them here quick.
There's potential there.
So let's see. This is a touchdown catch. 15, top of your screen. He's going to come in on a little dig here, a little crosser sitting on it. This is Chris Harris, a smaller, traditionally nickel corner, but still, Chris Harris is a real corner, been a starter for many years. And we'll just watch how he just out-muscles him here at the catch point. So we'll let it play through all the way, but then you just kind of see what he does here. All right, let's get to the replay. There we go. Top of your screen, 15. Cam Newton here throwing the ball. And it's just going in. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Go high point the ball here.
Yep.
And so here's
boxed out the corner.
Yeah. And then look.
That's a basketball play right there.
Yep,
boxes
right there.
out the corner.
Right there. And finds a way to come down with it. And yep, look, Chris Harris is tugging away at it, but strong enough to hold on to the ball. So this is a guy, and that's why I said as much as I'm negative about the process, I'm not so much negative about the receiver I'll say this, in the archetype. His talent his production, those raise some questions. But as far as the archetype, it's there. And then again, we're looking here. Let's get the play going. This will be the final one. I think he's at the bottom of your screen here.
The last guy that we had that posted up like that was Martellus Bennett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it again. Like, watch this release. So playing off, and I'll pause it here just a little. I love that release, and I want to slow down. That's Darius Williams. Darius Williams just got $30 million in Jacksonville to be their starting corner. He is a smaller player, so this, to be clear, this N'Keal Harry should be doing this on a smaller corner, but this is not a slouch either. He got a big deal from Jacksonville to be their starting corner.
So, the pride of Western Michigan.
Look at this little fake sit.
The double move.
Double move. That's what I was going to say. So Cam Meredith made a pretty good living for the Bears on the double move. Man, if this is a guy that can perfect the double move until Cameron Meredith blew out his knee. Was that the guy's name?
Tennessee.
In
Tennessee.
Well,
yeah,
I have the name right?
Yeah, it was Cam Meredith, but I'm saying it was in Tennessee in a preseason game. We were talking about the Titans earlier, Jordan and I, and it was in that stadium.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like I said, we could talk about production. Aaron brought up a good point. Like, yeah, if he really meant something, he wouldn't have been traded for a conditional seventh. All of that is all true and fair. But just looking at just examples, because even I'm showing you the good. And that's the one thing I don't like about doing that is, like, I can pull lowlights if I had more time, and I'll show you where it's not good. But
totally understand it. You just showed us the potential.
Yeah, I'm showing you the potential ceiling. And the whole point is that in the Bears' current wide receiver room, and I know we all know it, we're Bears
going to talk about that in just a few.
Can you tell me another archetype that is able to win at the catch point and secure balls from Justin Fields as we all know
this roster? No, nobody.
There's nobody. So that was my whole thing is I just wanted an X receiver. So I am positive that we got one. And as I know everybody wants to talk about Equinemius St. Brown. Equinemius St. Brown is a guy that's simply there to teach the playbook, teach the routes, teach the spacing of the concepts, not to be some 1,000-yard receiver. So they actually got a guy that, whether you want to admit it or not, was let's put it this way, top 50 talent. And that's from every evaluator in the league that you trust, from Daniel Jeremiah to Bucky Brooks to Dane Brugler, top 50 talent. It's just about, can that change of scenery unlock him?
Now, when you were just saying that, Jordan, were you talking about EQ or were you talking about Harry?
I'm talking about N'Keal Harry. I don't have anything against EQ St. Brown. I just...
No, I think he's the one that Greg Gabriel said he likes quite a bit and says that he's to really watch out. He said he's a hell of a talent. He's going to get a shot here and make everything about it. So.
I think so, too, because, again, if Getsy thought this guy sucked, he could have said, no, I've worked with him for 3 years, 4 years. Fuck this guy. Don't sign him. And the guy signed a deal for like the league minimum saying, okay, I'm betting on me. Yep. I'm betting on myself. I'm going to get paid.
Yep, I agree.
Because I'm going to show off. I feel like this guy, I think, is kind of under the radar, and a lot of people just shit on him, like someone in the chat room earlier. And it was Joe Mandel, wasn't it? Was he in the chat room? Or he said that we even have the best St. Brown, the best St. Browns in Detroit. But we don't know that yet.
We don't know. Yeah, it's true.
We don't know. Danny. I mean, he could be completely right. And he could get cut in the summer. But I think he's got an opportunity here, like I said earlier, to make his future. I kind of like him on the roster because Lou Getsy obviously likes him.
So listen to this, though, Danny. N'Keal Harry, this will be his 4th year in the NFL. He's a year younger than Velus Jones. He started in the NFL. It was only 2021. So, I mean, this was a young kid with the Patriots, man. I mean, he hasn't even started to mature, you know. This might be a good pickup. You know, it's up to Harry. You know, it's all on him. You know, if he's given a good enough chance and if he plays hard enough. Let's take a look at his stats. 2019, only 12 receptions, 24 targets, 105 yards. Had 2 touchdowns, though. 2020 was his best year, 33 receptions total, 309 yards, 2 touchdowns. Last year with New England and Mac Jones, though, he had a 15.3 yards per catch average. Did not find the end zone, but in 3 years, only 1 fumble in all those catches. So, we got that, and we're also going to take a look at the Bears wide receiver room. I want to get Jordan Silveira's thoughts on the Bears wide receiver room. It is growing. I'm going to run down the list real quick. real quick here.
Quantity, not quality.
Right. Hello. So here we go. Let's get into it a little bit. You got Darnell Mooney as the alpha dog, Byron Pringle, Equinemius St. Brown, Velus Jones Jr., N'Keal Harry, Dante Pettis, former 49er, Tajay Sharp, who's bounced around the league, Daz Newsome, David Moore with the recent arrest, Kevin Shaw.
I'd say he's gone.
I would say he's gone too. We're going to talk
Considering the charges, yeah.
I got to admit, I don't know a lot of these guys. Kevin Shaw, Nasimba Webster, I think he's a kick returner. Chris Finke, you don't know what happened. I don't know him. Isaiah Coulter. That's the Bears wide receiver room now. That is a lot of guys.
But isn't it better than last season, potentially?
13 wide receivers so far.
Well, I'm just saying with the new guys we've added, I mean, is that better than Marquise? Marquise Goodwin did all right in San Francisco, but he didn't really add a lot for the Bears. And Bird had that great catch in Seattle with Nick Foles when we beat the Seahawks. But beyond that, he didn't do much. And you let Grant leave. I'm just saying on paper, like this wide receiver group could be better than last season.
Yeah,
you know what, though? Even if the wide receiver talent isn't better, there's no reason to think the wide receiving game won't be better with a better coaching staff.
Right. And I think Justin Fields could be and should be, and if he's not hurt, will play much better this season, especially because Nagy's not here.
Mm-hmm.
How many wide receivers do they keep? Usually about 6, I think, right? Jordan?
Oh, yeah.
5, 6.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
So I got a feeling they're probably with all the bites of the apple they're taking this offseason. I have a feeling it's going to be 6. I could be wrong, but there's a lot
2 could be in the practice squad, probably 2.
Right. There could, of course, there'll be some practice squad players. 13 guys. Mooney, Pringle, St. Brown, Jones Jr. Those guys. Those 4 will definitely be on the roster. Anybody disagree?
Say that
I don't
again.
know.
Mooney, Pringle,
Equinemius, St. Brown, Velus Jones Jr. Those 4 guys will make the roster.
It sounds like I'm so down on St. Brown, and I promise I'm not trying to be. Like, I think Nomad said earlier, like, nobody knows what he can do. I totally wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah, it's
like, there's
also
no doubt that
he knows the system, though.
Yeah, there's no doubt that he was in Aaron Rodgers' doghouse. I'm not, like I said, I'm not disagreeing with that. But I actually am a little lower on if that guy makes the roster. Because, I mean, just look at it a little, which is to say, I certainly think his value was knowing the plays, knowing the concepts, knowing the routes, knowing the spacing, knowing timing. Once everybody else learns that, what's his value? And he could be a baller. But why are you trading a 7th-round pick for another guy of the same build, the same play style, the same architect?
Like I said, it's a dart throw. Yep. Spitballing at the wall.
Yeah.
Let's see what, 7th-round pick. It was the temptation was too great. I mean, the Patriots probably were going to release him. We throw away a 2024 7th-rounder just to have him not go through waivers. That's the whole thought process of polls. This guy was a 1st-round pick, star at ASU. It wasn't a hard. I probably would have thrown a 7th-round pick out there. It's not even next year's 7th-round pick. So I mean, it's like by that point we might not even need a 7th-round pick. We might get a conditional pick. It doesn't matter. It's a throwaway. After that, you've got N'Keal Harry, Dante Pettis, Tajay Sharp, Daz Newsome, David Moore. Any of these guys have a chance of making the roster? I think David Moore, like Dan said, is gone, Danny.
I mean, he should be. Weapons charges? I mean,
they found him, if I remember correctly, they found him passed out in a Taco Bell drive-thru, and the car smelled like weed, and there were guns in his car.
Why isn't he gone already then?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. You'd think that they would, but yeah, that was my understanding. I think they were talking about that either on the CHGO podcast or Hogan Johns, one of those two. But they spelled all that out. It's like, ugh.
And Pringle's driving around with a suspended license with his fucking kid, doing like wheelies and shit.
In a parking lot. Yeah.
Right.
Jesus Christ. And then there was one more. There was a linebacker.
That was Pringle, right? That was
But Adams got arrested too. Adams, the linebacker, got arrested as well.
Right. The other guy was Adams, who had a gun in his car too, right?
Boy, it's too bad Tank Johnson's not young still. He would fit in well here.
Yeah. What was the name of that guy that the defensive lineman they signed from the 49ers? Everyone was against it. And he also had the
Ray McDonald.
Ray McDonald.
Yeah.
Like shades of Ray McDonald.
Instantly got into the shit.
The Bears are starting to look like the Raiders with some of these.
Hey, that always worked for Oakland, though.
It's true.
Right.
Yeah, I think Tooch, you bring up a good point. It's just like what receivers will make it. Again, I'm taking a total shot in the dark here, but I tend to think. I mean, let's just talk about some of the easier cuts that make sense. A guy like Coulter, a guy like Shaw or Shea, a guy like Fink probably aren't going to make it. They're camp bodies. The reality is, look, you're going to have these guys running all these routes. Let's keep the legs fresh. Can't have guys out there consistently just running them out. Swap the bodies in and out. Let them catch a breather. So I think that's why you have so many bodies there. But I just like, let's give you an example. Simba Webster's basically a returner. I guess if
we
it's
have
just
a lot of those guys, though.
That's my thing. Like, you have Velus Jones, you have Khalil Herbert, you have Daz Newsome. Like, Daz Newsome's the guy where why would you give a spot?
You have Treston Ebner.
Yeah, like, why would you give the spot?
It's awesome at returning kicks.
Yeah, why would you give the spot to Webster and not Newsome? Why would you give the spot to? I mean, the thing is, like, I get it, and no, it's a 7th round pick. I'm not telling you it's a big investment, but if you're really rolling with 5 or 6, I'd rather cut the guy that costs $760,000 or whatever it was in St. Brown, rather than the guy that's 1st round talent I traded a 7th round pick for. His salary's a little bit more. I have to waive him. I just like some of these, you go, why would you take that guy over that guy? And so I think that you end up with like a Daz Newsome on the practice squad. You're probably rolling with Mooney, Pringle, Velus, and then a big receiver. And then if you're rolling with 5 and then you're rolling with 5 on game day, maybe you're rolling with like a Pettis or a St. Brown.
I'm telling you, St. Brown's going to make the roster just because of his familiarity with the system and his familiarity with Luke Getsy. I know you're not high on him, but that's okay. I just think that whether you're right or wrong, Luke Getsy is going to push for his guy to stay.
Right. That's been my point. And the NFL is full of nepotism.
Exactly.
And you bring a guy over from our hated nemesis, and he says, "Hey, we got this gem here, this diamond in the rough that hasn't gotten an opportunity." He could have easily just said, "No, fuck this guy. He's not any good." He obviously, I know it's conjecture on my part, but I think it's a fair assessment or assumption to say that he went to bat for him.
Yeah.
I mean, if he didn't give him a positive reference, this guy wouldn't be here.
Absolutely. After those 4 guys that I mentioned, Mooney, Pringle, St. Brown, Velus Jones, N'Keal Harry, Dante Pettis, Tajay Sharp, these are all veterans. I think N'Keal Harry makes the roster. I know, unless he really freaking sucks, in training camp or gets hurt or anything like that, he's one of the top 5. Then you've got a guy like Dante Pettis, who I liked coming out, didn't really do much. He's another guy who was in the doghouse in San Francisco, right, Jordan?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, the situation with Pettis there, and to be clear, I'm pretty high on Pettis as a guy that really speedy. I mean, resident scout Greg Gabriel was high on him, had him as like his 3rd or 4th guy in that draft.
Yeah.
A good receiver at Washington was handpicked by Kyle Shanahan to be kind of his guy, and it just didn't sync and click for whatever reason.
Yep.
I think if we're going to talk about N'Keal Harry as a guy, he was a 1st rounder, and I mean, Pettis was in that same kind of talking point. So what does he look like? And, the thing that we're all not even talking about here is Tyke Tolbert, the wide receiver coach, who has kind of turned water to wine multiple times in his previous stops in the NFL. He's worked with Pettis. Who knows what he'll turn Velus Jones into? I look at Velus obviously we all hope that Velus has a significant role, but I'm even okay like slow playing a guy like that and just having him pop in for a little jet touch pass.
Speaking of kick returners too, Velus Jones is pretty darn good kick returner in college.
Be my Devin Hester. Like Velus Jones, be my Devin Hester. You can be the return guy, and then I'll bring you in on offense to catch a screen, to get a reverse, and then I'm really feeding the ball on my hopefully limited pass attempts, because I'm running the ball so well. And then once every while I do a pop, play action pop pass to, Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet, one of those guys.
Right. Now, a friend of the Barroom Barrelissimo, George Bayless, he's got a couple nice breakdowns on his channel on YouTube of Equanimous St. Brown.
I love George.
Yeah, Treston Ebner. Yeah, George did a lot of work for the Barroom in the past before going to Tape Never Lies. He's got some really on his personal. He did some great work on Ebner and Equanimous St. Brown, which I retweeted both of those. So if if you want to check out some of the Bears potential kick returners and wide receivers, etc., definitely give his a page a view. N'Keal Harry, Dante Pettis, Velus Jones, Equanimeous St. Brown, Byron Mingle, Darnell Mooney. Those would be my 6 just before training camp. After training camp, who knows? They might suck. But I guarantee you Mooney, Pringle, St. Brown, and Velus Jones Jr. will be the 4 that make the roster for sure. All right, let's move on. Now we're going to talk a little gauging Robert Quinn's trade value, as talk articles, rumors have been springing up with the trade, possibly with the Chiefs. Ryan Pohl's connection to the Chiefs. Robert Quinn rumored to be unhappy in Chicago in a rebuilding year, coming off a great year. Dan Aguirre's guy. Danny, did you buy a Robert Quinn jersey?
I did not, but like I said in 2020 to Aldo, heading into the Jacksonville game, he said, I've sucked. He was going through a divorce, and I know how painful that is, and you do as well. And it's challenging. And so he wasn't in the game mentally, and he came back. He said he was ashamed of his play, and he came back and broke Richard Dent's single season record for sacks. I mean, I hate that he wants to leave, but I don't know what Kansas City's supposed to offer us, but I hope it's a right guard.
Well, Jordan, what do you think, before I go to Aaron, what do you think Robert Quinn's trade value is as far as draft picks?
What's funny is if I were, again, just trying to be unbiased here, if I were 31 other GMs, I think history tends to repeat itself, and I'd be looking and going, oh, he just had a hot year. There's no way in hell I'm investing in a guy that's been so uneven in his career with one good year, one bad year. So you'd be lucky to get a 2024 7th round pick from me, but I also understand the guy has severe potential when he's on. So in that respect, I think what you're hoping for and praying is either a guy goes down and they need to bolster the pass rush unit. Think of, for example, Carl Lawson last year with the Jets went down. They had nobody else. That's why they've invested so heavily in Jacob Martin and Jermaine Johnson and so many other players. But that type of situation where a rusher goes down and they need to bolster it, maybe a guy like, and I guess this would ruin it because I'd probably take a flyer on Frank Clark before I'd take a flyer on Robert Quinn. But
right, he's in Kansas City right now.
That's kind of why that didn't make sense to me, is you already kind of have a guy that's underperforming, not really fitting what you're looking for, and you want to take a chance on Robert Quinn, who's theoretically going to have a down year.
Well, if Robert Quinn's tempted by the potential of a Super Bowl ring, might that change his
well, to me, the one that made sense, I guess they probably just don't have enough picks anymore, but you get a team like the Rams that got kind of anxious with Von Miller, where they were like,
his former team.
Yeah, you need juice.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, so you're looking for one of those teams that's championship quality, that's looking to get that final piece to push the car over the finish line. And you're hoping that Robert Quinn represents that. You can gouge them for maybe like a 4th round pick. That would be ideal in my situations. A 4th seems very fair for a guy at his age who may be coming off of a good year, but heading into a bad one based on history.
I think if he's not traded before the season begins, which obviously may not, he could be out of here before the San Francisco game on September the 11th. But winning cures everything. If he's here before the trade deadline, again, I'm not conceding anything as a Bears fan. The schedule isn't as daunting as it has been. You're in moderately a weak division, and I think that the coach is better. The team's going to be better. Like the quarterback's going to be. What I'm saying is, if the Bears are winning, a lot of people are saying that's not going to happen, but I say maybe. If the Bears are winning, maybe Quinn says, "Fuck it, all right, let's try to win the division here." Which, if I told you Minnesota was going to win the division, people wouldn't just shit on that. And do I think that the Bears are that less off than Minnesota? Absolutely not. We just got to beat Green Bay. You upset Green Bay in week 2, and then a lot of people are going to start sucking our dicks. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just saying, but the point, I appreciate you laughing, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying the point is, I'm not just trying to say that as shock value. I do believe if they have a big win early on, people are going to say, well, you know what? Justin Fields may not be as bad as we thought. And the schedule isn't that daunting. And then you know how every year it seems like ESPN always says the Lions or the Cowboys are going to be the shock team. And then suddenly people are going to jump on our bandwagon, is what I'm trying to say, if they get some wins early on. And then maybe Quinn wants to stay.
How many? There's like 18 million reasons for Robert Quinn to stick with the Bears, right, Jordan?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the funny thing, and I really mean this, like maybe I'll have to buy you a jersey or I'll kiss your ass or something, Dan, if they find a way to beat the Packers, because I'm unfortunately, I can't continue to sit here and hype myself up and promise that this is the year they finally unseat Aaron Rodgers. I've seen that man hobble back on the field with one knee and find a way to just will his team back to victory. So as long as he's healthy, I can't. I don't know. I'm traumatized by Aaron Rodgers, simply put. But
I understand.
Yeah. But and to be very clear, Dan, just so we're on the same page, I think you and I are probably two of the more positive people on what the Bears will look like this next year. I've routinely said I think that secondary will be hovering around top 10. The defense as well will be hovering around top 10 DVOA. I mean, something I'm really working on close to the Bare Necessities is really trying to show that I really think that there's a weird connection with what Buffalo is building and what the Bears are building. And it doesn't mean that Justin Fields is going to have an MVP year, but theoretically, and this is, I don't know how many people want to admit this, if Justin Fields is truly the guy, is truly transcendent, like Joe Burrow was with a bad offensive line, like Deshaun Watson was with a bad offensive line, with Herbert with bad coaching. I mean, we can go down the list of these guys that found a way to pull through, even with shittier circumstances than they'd like. If Fields is really that guy, I think that you start seeing him be the straw that stirs the drink, and these no-name guys, these Equinemiuses, these Velus Jones, these guys come up a bit, and you get a quarterback that if he's throwing 24 touchdowns, 9 interceptions type deal, that's acceptable for the year. And so that's what we're really hoping.
And he could run for another 5 to 7 touchdowns as well.
Oh, yeah, we are going to get into that in just a few, as we'll be talking Justin Fields over-unders for the 2022 season. I know y'all are excited.
I used to hate doing this with Trubisky because every year it was like, oh, yeah, this is the 4,000-yard year. The Bears never have 4,000. But I wanted it to happen, but in the back of my head, I was like, that's not going to fucking happen. But I honestly think it could happen with Fields. I would bet no, because they should run heavy. In theory, if things are going well. But if you told me Fields had, I'm stealing your thunder, Tooch, I'm sorry, 3,500 yards passing, I'm buying. I'm not going to say 4,000, though, because it hasn't happened for the Bears.
I want to get Aaron's quick thoughts on Robert Quinn's trade value. What do you think, Aaron? What round pick? What would you give up for Robert Quinn before we move to Justin Fields?
I'd be surprised if they got a 5th. I would bet it's later than that. 6th, maybe 7th.
It's almost not worth it then, Danny.
No, he's so up and down.
Yeah.
He had a knockout season for us last year, but before that wasn't good. But like Dan said, there was extenuating circumstances, but especially for somebody that's been around the league as long as he has, he's definitely, a bit older as far as NFL players are concerned. So it's
right. He's 32 right now.
I don't know that a trade will happen before. I think somebody might come calling if an injury happens to a contending team midway through the season, maybe. But I don't think anybody's going to shell out any serious draft picks for him before the season. Even later in the season, we may be like, you know what, well, give us a 4th or 5th because your star, edge rusher went down and we could do business.
You can't rule out the fact that as training camps progress and injuries happen, his value may increase. Let's move on to Justin Fields. We're going to talk Justin Fields over-unders for the season. Let's start. I know you guys can't wait. Let's start with, like Danny was just mentioned, yardage. The over-under right now, 3,630 yards. Last year he had 1,870. He's almost going to have to double that. Dan Aguirre, are you over or under 3,630?
I think that's about right. If I had to say
number.
over, I'll say under, but I think it'll be, if it's under, it's like 3,500, somewhere through there.
Jordan?
I think it's right on the money. I mean, kind of go push in that scenario. I think that's a pretty realistic expectation, and kind of with Dan on this.
Aaron Michalski.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I think that's a pretty realistic expectation for him in his year 2.
I know, right? I would say under just because I got to see it first. I mean, by all accounts, man, everything is out there. Video of him working his ass off. People saying this guy works harder than anybody in the building. It's just that it comes down to protection. Offensive line's got to protect him. I mean, he had a 11.8% sack rate last year.
We also don't know how much of that wasn't just bad lineup. How much of it was scheme?
Like a lot of it was coaching.
Yeah, a boneheaded, play call at the wrong time with a line that couldn't protect him.
Right. And will the line protect this year? That's a huge question. Let's talk completion rate, where the over-under is 63%.
Higher.
Higher for 63. Wow. All right.
Yeah, I think that's
with you on that.
I'll go 66, 67.
Very good. Jordan Silveira. No, you're a harsh critic and a realist.
No, I mean, what's funny? I struggle here because of Fields is Mr. Accurate. If there's one thing about his game is he puts the ball where it needs to be to catch it. But I'm going to take the under just because I think that inherently, you talk about needing to see it. Well, I guess I need to see these receivers pull in contested catches, so I'm going to go under. All
right. Aaron Michalski, over under 63%.
Jordan's got a good point. It's not so much questioning Fields' ability to put it in their hands, but for them to come down with it, I guess is something you have to take into consideration. So, God damn it, that's a tough one. Jordan kind of opened me up on that question. I was going to say over, but then I'm like, oh, fuck, the receivers, we don't know, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't doubt Fields is stirring the drink.
No, that's just it. Because he's proven his accuracy, but the receiver talent, most of them at least, or if not all of them, other than Mooney, are building chemistry with him at this point. So it's kind of
for sure. When the bullets start flying, though, it's the first year of the system. I would say under, but hell,
I'm just going to go under.
I have no idea.
Considering the receivers are new, and which sucks that when he's getting it right to people and they keep dropping it, like I saw so many times last year. I'm going to have to go under.
Right. All right. Let's talk yards per attempt. So over under for yards per attempt is 7, right at 7. I think he was 6.6 last year, 6.8. Jordan Silveira, yards per attempt, 7 yards. That seems pretty reachable.
This is what I'm going to hammer the over for. The one thing is, to me, you hammer the over because if there's one thing we know about Fields, he's greedy. He is super bad back there. This is where I didn't get to talk about all the sacks, but the idea is I wouldn't look for the sacks to go down a ton. He's not Russell Wilson in the same players, the same size, but that type of guy that just runs around looking for magic, and they sometimes get themselves in trouble. We saw that as a rookie, but part of that is he's looking for the big play. I mean, you can go back to the rookie stats.
Touchdown to check down.
Yeah, and you can go back to the rookie stats and see air yards per attempt, and I think he was second or third in the league, and we're talking all of the quarterbacks with over X amount of attempts that would essentially qualify starters.
I'm with you.
That's gonna lead to the guys that are catching it going for, and then you have a bunch of yak monsters, which that also gets calculated into the yards per attempt. But like I said, I couldn't speak stronger about hammering the over there.
Danny Aguirre, I know you're going to say over. 7
absolutely
very, very doable.
How many times did we see the shallow cross? Not only Mooney, but every wide receiver, all 3 receivers, or even if it's a 4 wide receiver formation, how many times did Nagy have them running 3 or 4 yard outs? It's just the fucking system was just brutal. And I know he's trying to mitigate sacks in that regard, but so much was wrong with Fields last season was Nagy, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
I think it's realistic to say he hits 9 to 10 yards on average, I think, because he will take some deep shots and complete them now. I do believe that to be true. And I think if he stays healthy, he's going to show you what Trubisky could show you in Pittsburgh this year with a real coach, that, hey, it's this other guy who's holding everybody back.
Yeah. Anytime anybody mentions Trubisky, I'm waiting for Mike North to come through like the Kool-Aid man, crashing into the chat room.
I can't wait to see what Mitch does in Pittsburgh. I'll tell you. I think he's going to be all right. Aaron, 7 yards per attempt. You got to say over on that. I think
I'm going to go over.
Very doable with the playmakers they have on offense.
Yep, I'm going to go over. Like Jordan said, he's a touchdown to check down dude, and that's one thing too. Even coming out of the draft, is that he's always looking for the long ball, which can as we've seen, cause issues. He holds onto the ball a little too long, trying to make something happen. If he doesn't with his feet, he gets hit. But then, last year, the constant thing people talked about was the long delivery, that kind of long looping throwing motion, which I think they fixed.
Supposedly he's fixed that. He's been working on a quicker release.
Fixed it.
We'll see.
But you'll have to wait and see when the 300-pound linemen are crashing at him if that new throwing motion stays.
When the bullets are flying. Yep.
Yeah,
get that elbow down.
It's tough to say, but I mean, 7 yards per attempt. I absolutely think that this is going to be. They're definitely going to go long ball on this one.
What Aaron just said is what I worry about. The same thing with Cutler back in the day. In Fields last season is just how many times are you going to get hit and fumble at the same time? I worry about his ability to hold on to the ball. He's a completely different player than Dave Craig, but Dave Craig, former Bear in 1996 for the Bears, for that matter, consistently fumbled and led the league in fumbles every year, and that happened so much with Jay. That's the weakest part of his game, in my opinion, is that when he gets hit, he drops the ball.
Well,
and I worry about that.
What's funny, Dan, is you're talking about that, and I think when you have I call him Ferrari Fields, when you have that special player with those legs, I desperately want to see him involved in the run game. It helps the offense so much when they have to account for him. But I am so fearful for him running. You could just watch his runs last year, and it just looks awkward.
His slides are definitely awkward.
They're baseball slides, and I get it. He played baseball, but it's like it's almost like, I don't know if he's just too long at the lower half, or when he slides, it looks weird. And then when he decides not to slide, he's throwing his helmet. And here's the thing, not throwing his helmet into like TJ Watt, he's trying to throw his helmet into Minka Fitzpatrick, which I don't ever think Minka Fitzpatrick is some person that lays the wood and hits people with all the power, but he's blowing up Fields, and it just feels like I need to use you in the run game. But I've literally seen Cam Newton to Tim Tebow to Andrew Luck to much bigger guys just watch their bodies get destroyed from running the ball. And then this guy, in being Fields, this guy just finds a way to take a gluttonous amount of punishment in the run game, and that's a real concern of mine.
He wasn't getting the fucking calls. It was open season on Fields last year, as far as everybody else.
And the refs never threw the flags.
No, there was
disgusting.
He about got his fucking head taken off trying to slide, or threw the ball and then got hammered after the fact.
You can touch Rodgers' jersey. Just touch his jersey and they'll throw the flag.
Don't point at him, or you get a taunting call. That's the fucking thing. But you can goddamn decapitate Justin Fields, and it's like, he's just a rookie. He'll suck it out.
Yeah, so, fuck that, man.
You guys talked about rushing. Last year, Justin Fields had Ravi's favorite number, 420 yards, 420 rushing. It's Ravi Come-Up's favorite number. But this year, over-under's 574 rushing yards. Jordan, can he increase that number, 574? That seems a little high, but doable.
No, I do think he does, and the reason for that, and I see Ravi over here, 420, baby. Yeah, Jeff fired gelato, Ravi. But I take the over there, and the reason for it is, again, we're hoping, we're projecting, but if you watch the Shanahan wide zone offense, and this is kind of goes with that completion percentage too, and yards per attempt, and some of that is they boot and do naked bootlegs, and typically the way that those plays are scheduled is it's almost like a sail concept. You have a low, a mid, and then an alert. The alert being the high, the mid, and the low option. And sure, I think Fields will absolutely take advantage of those, and typically they're schemed to be wide open. But also what he's going to see is that when he's rolling around and those don't look quite as comfortable, he's going to typically – I'm telling you, because this is Jimmy G and any of the others, Matt Schaub, these other quarterbacks that have been in the system. When they look out, and they don't take it because they're not fast, but they have 12 yards ahead of them, and I can just see Fields making money on those constantly, where he's just booting out, scrambling for 7, scrambling for 8, and it all of a sudden chunks up to around that 570-yard average for the season.
Dan Aguirre, 574 rushing yards for the young quarterback. Yes.
It's interesting that he brought up Mike Shanahan, or maybe he's talking about Kyle. But
Kyle, Mike, it's real basic level Shanahan.
Yeah, well, the vision in my head is I want him to be John Elway. I want him to be able to throw the fucking ball, and even John, when he was older, could still. I mean, you saw him in the Super Bowl. He needed the first down. He dove. He got it. He wasn't the same guy from 10 years before, but that's who I want Fields to be, and I think he can be. And I'm on the fucking bandwagon. As bad as I felt about Nagy is the complete opposite of how high I feel about Fields.
Amen.
So to answer your question on his yardage, I think it's about right. If I had to say, maybe slightly over if he stays healthy, but I think that's about a good number there. It's a reasonable expectation.
I agree. A couple big plays, and he hits that over. Aaron Michalski, 574 yards rushing for Justin Fields. Doable, over, under?
I think it's doable, but I don't know. I have this gut feeling that they're going to try and not to get him to run as much. I think they're going to have him like roll out and stuff quite a bit, but I think for whatever reason, just in my gut, I have a feeling they're going to don't run the fucking ball if you can't throw it or throw it, because he needs to be much better about throwing it away. I mean, that's definitely one thing we saw last year with so many of the, I don't know about interceptions, but like fumbles and stuff, that air balls, just like he needs to be better about throwing those things away. I just, for some reason, I think they're going to try and ingrain it to him, try not to run if you have the opportunity to, but I think they're really going to try and keep him a passer this year.
Well, Jordan, Silveira said some design rollouts, a little play action fake and hitting Justin Fields, getting Justin Fields on a bootleg rollout for some big yardage. That's a possibility.
Yeah. To me, the one thing I want to talk about is, if we're saying he's going to get 500 yards because they're running the Lamar Jackson pistol read option offense, it works for Lamar. And by the way, I think Justin Fields is easily a top 3 runner in the league actively currently as we sit here and talk on July 12th. I think he's that special in the run game when he gets his legs moving, and we can show all that on film. But if it was this gimmicky offense where he was having to play read option all day, I'm not sure he'd get those 500 yards. But as I said, I think there's going to be those opportunities where Aaron's talking about where they're going to encourage him. Don't take any hits. Don't make any dangerous throws. Protect the ball. You have a defensive coach. It's the Lovie Smith thing. Like, hey, just take care of the ball. Defense will get you the ball back. Don't turn it over. Don't put our defense in bad spots. Score enough points. We'll hold them to less than 15. It's that old school style. But with that, you're gonna get Fields on these rollouts where he goes, I mean, sure, I guess I could throw a 40-yard bomb and hope Mooney comes down with it. Or I'll just live to play another, the 4 downs, and I'll take a 10-yard run. And I'm not even telling you that as a projection. We saw that last year in the bad scheme that was Nagy, where he would constantly just end up running for 7, 8, 10 yards because there was no separation. Things weren't open. And he's like, well, you know what I do know works is my legs, and I'll go ahead and pick up the first down that way.
All right. Well, let's move on to we talked about sack rate, over under for that 8.7%. Last year, 11.8% sack rate. That was one of the highest in the league. Danny, what do you see Fields getting sacked a lot less this year? Because I kind of do.
My hope, everything I keep telling you that I think the Bears should be better because, again, the coach and all this, that my whole assumption, everything comes down to Fields being healthy and thus taking much less punishment in comparison with last season. So the short answer is, for fuck's sake, please God, yes, let him get sacked less. It would be kind of hard for him to get sacked in the same level as last season, though.
Was that the Cleveland Browns game, Dan?
Oh my God, we were at that game, and again, the only other game that's comparable was the Cutler game against the Giants when he got sacked 9 times in the first half.
After that, the Giants went on a long winning streak. Was that right after that, or?
I don't know. I just know Jay got the shit beat out of him, and Fields did last season.
Right.
I like the upgraded center. We don't really know who's going to play left tackle. If I had to surmise, it's probably going to be Braxton. And so we don't know what the right side's. I don't know, but I think he's going to get sacked less. I mean, our GM is an offensive lineman. Somehow they'll make this work to be better than last season.
Well,
I agree with that comment. We need a right guard. That's fucking true. Cliff Victoria.
Man, I'll tell you, the offensive line is far from settled, Jordan Silveira. What's the secret to keeping Justin Fields from getting sacked so much?
And you may have to remind me of the exact percent. I know it was like 11% of the
11.8% last season. 8.7 this season is the over-under.
I think the sacks will decrease some. And I do really believe, and somebody had said it's not actually going to be the offensive line, it'll just be because of the play action and the scheme. And like I said, I really want to hammer this home. I think it's going to be a lot of Eberflus and being the head coach and him preaching to the staff. And he talks about all the time that his coaches are just teachers. They're just preaching philosophy. And that philosophy from a defensive guy is, please don't be Carson Wentz. Please don't be Jimmy G. Don't make boneheaded errors that cost us the game. Protect the ball. And so part of that is don't take unnecessary hits. Protect yourself. And don't put yourself in a position to be stripped as you're going down. So I think some of those sacks are going to go down. But call me a hater if you will. I think for his entire career, he's going to be one of the more sacked quarterbacks. Just because I think that's his play style. He tries to make magic happen, which is, we're good with it. When it hits, it's worth it. But this is the Russell Wilson thing. And we can go back to other guys where they play around back there and they're scrambling around and they think that they're faster than every other guy on the field. And nobody quite gets open. And sure enough, they get sacked. It happens.
Well, I'll tell you, Russell Wilson, about the closest player I can think of that reminded me of one of my favorite quarterbacks when I was a little kid. In fact, I used to dress up as him. I had a full uniform. That was Fran Tarkenton. That guy had eyes in the back of his head. Danny Aguirre. Do you remember Fran Tarkenton?
The Fran's before I was born, but I've seen many games of Fran, and again, that was my dad's favorite player.
One of mine. He had just
gotten out of Vietnam when Minnesota was going on their run of this 3 Super Bowls in 4 seasons. So I heard so much about Fran and I've watched so much tape, not just like highlights, like the actual games. I've said this to Aldo before. If Fran plays an okay game, they beat Pittsburgh in Super Bowl 9. He played dreadfully. Yeah. If he plays, just don't fuck it up, Fran. Just be okay against Oakland. They're in the game. He single-handedly lost those 2 Super Bowls. Now, Miami just overpowered them. He didn't play that badly, but I don't know. Fran had a lot of stats based upon the fact he was in the league like 20 years, and he ran around. I'll give him that. But his arm was suspect, and you talk about a guy that shit the bed in the championship games. My God, if that were Jay Cutler doing that, I mean, hell, he gets hurt in a championship game, and they act like the guy's a pussy. I'm saying Fran gets a pass for a lot of his bad play.
Yeah, held the all-time yards passing for quite a long time before.
That's because he played for like 25 seasons.
Played for a long time. And he was a little guy. I think he was about 5'10". But man, when I was watching him as a kid, there were so many times when the Bears defensive line had him and he just escaped.
That would make me hate him.
Of course. Yeah. But when
you know who I like?
Like, boy,
I like of those Minnesota teams. I like Joe Kapp, the guy that led them to the Super Bowl in the '69 season when they went to Super Bowl 4.
Yep.
Kapp's just a rugged guy that went out. He's kind of like Jim McMahon, like goes out drinking with the offensive linemen and could run your ass over, but also had a duck that he would throw 40 yards but complete it. And I like Kapp much better than Tarkenton. That's just my opinion.
All right. Well, we got the over-under for touchdowns and interceptions left, and then we'll get into a little bit of NFL team over-unders. 18 touchdowns, Aaron Michalski. Over-under last year, he had 7.
I'm going to go under. I think he gets close.
Under 18, okay.
Yeah, I think he doubles it and gets to at least 14, but it just, like I said, it's so tough right now with without knowing the receivers, what he's got and who we can count on, who's going to catch the ball, what kind of receivers, what receiver's going to go up and get it, who's going to be the long ball receiver. I think 18 would be great, and I think maybe he can, but like realistically, I think he's going to go under, probably 14 or 15 maybe, but 18 just seems like a bit too much.
And Jordan Silveira, 18 touchdowns.
That's my holy shit, I'm scared faces. If you're telling me, and I'm not even saying Aaron's wrong, but if you're telling me that he's going under that, fuck, that's scary, man. That means that's a bad year. I mean, again,
but it's an improvement, though. It's a step up, and that's the thing. I just need improvement from mine. I don't expect him to come out and be lights out this year. That
means David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert have quite a few touchdowns there.
Running game considered, yeah. Sorry,
I have to, and I'll pull this up as I kind of talk. But I just think that we're talking. I'm looking right now. The guy that I'm pulling up is Tua, because not that Tua is the gold standard for quarterbacks, but he played in an RPO system last year, and I need to know. So last year he pulled 16 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. I don't, and that's my thing. I think if I asked you what you thought of Tua, you'd be like, that wasn't a good year. I'm gonna for the sake of just getting the bet done, Tooch, I would take the over, but just by like the tiniest bit. I think he gets to 18, 19, 20 touchdowns. Like just enough. Just a little.
I hear you. Dan Aguirre, 18 seems pretty doable to me. That's about 1, maybe 2 touchdowns a game.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking 20 before Jordan said that. I'm not trying to ride his analysis there. I would go with, anywhere from 20 to, 22, 23, somewhere in there. Again, if he stays healthy, God forbid, again, he gets injured. But I think that's doable. I mean, whenever he plays the way I think he could play, I do believe he could break Eric Kramer's single team record for the 29 touchdowns, of Kramer's. He could break that from his 95 season. I don't think that'll be this season, but I think it could happen and should happen.
All right. I think I'm going to take over on this one. I think it's about right. 18. I think he'd hit 19, 20, like Jordan says. I'm right there. I would go over it. Now, interceptions, 15 interceptions is the over on. Last year he had 10. Aaron, what are you thinking?
15 it's what they're saying?
Yeah.
You know what? I want to hear the two guys. I want and see what they come out with it. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I'll love to take this because to me, I'm as I told you earlier, I'm hammering the over. I'm hammering the under here by a ton. And this is the reason, this is the reason why. So he had 10 interceptions last year in a shitty scheme and all that. Yes, he may be throwing the ball more a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. The thing is if you actually go back and look at his rookie year when he's learning on the fly, having mistakes, theoretically should be making more mistakes than as a sophomore. When you look at that, he had 10, and some of those 10 weren't even on him.
Sure. Where it's
Cam Hayward making the most amazing interception where he just kind of like gets it into his chest and holds on to it, to the I thought I had a guy jumping offside, so I lobbed a ball and Adrian Amos picked it. Like there's so hey, I threw it up to Darnell Mooney and he couldn't find a way to come down with it, and Josh Norman picked it off to end the game. Like some of those are still going to happen, but there was a lot of streaky bullshit interceptions that I don't think will persist. So you're now telling me that he's somehow going to have what he had last year with those plus some. I can't see it.
Right on, man. You got me sold. I'm going under them.
All right, under. Dan Aguirre.
I'll go under as well. If I had to make predictions on numbers, I'd say 20 touchdowns, 12 picks.
I'm going to say under as well. I just think because the schedule is a little bit easier this year, I don't think we're facing that good of defenses as maybe as we saw last year. So I would take under. Let's talk a little NFL unders. I know Dan Aguirre's a guy who likes to pick winners of every games on the weekends. He likes the confidence pool and things like that. Let's talk about the dreaded Packers. DraftKings has the Packers at 11 wins and FanDuel over 10.5 wins. Are you taking over under for the Packers, Danny?
It's hard to pick against Rodgers. I don't like saying that.
It's truth though,
I'll say that they're 10-7.
Okay, so that would be under. Let's go to Jordan. Packers over 11, over 10.5, same thing.
That is like right on. And the reason is, I think that I don't know how he's going to overcome that receiver turnover. I think it's going to hurt to not have Adams, but I'll tell you what, if Tom Brady somehow finds a way to do it at 45, I still think Aaron Rodgers still has some juice left. I think I'm right there with GCA. I think he goes over by just a hair, 12, 13 wins.
Aaron, over under for the Packers.
Yeah, I'm going to go over
11.
Because you figure they're playing all the same teams that we are, and everybody says we have an easy schedule, and they're a better team than we are, undoubtedly. So I think it's an easy over for me.
Spot on.
All right. Let's move on to our Bears. 6.5 wins. That's the number. It's been that number for quite a long time, Danny. 6.5 wins. I know you're going
over. Even if it's just 9-8. I mean, they had 2 9-7 seasons. It's still odd for me to say 9-8 because I'm so programmed for 16 games. But with 17 now, I put them 10-7ish, 9-8ish. I think that they're right there, and at the end of the season, I think they have a shot at winning the division. And if that makes me a homer, then fuck it, I'll be a homer.
You know, the schedule is, preseason and on paper, it's not a difficult schedule. You know, the teams that we're playing, are they improved? Sure, but it's not as so. I lean over. I think they can hit 7. I don't think that's hard. Jordan, what do you think? 6.5?
Yeah, I'm going to take the over. I just to be very concise here, the way I would do the schedule is absolutely bottom basement floor. Everything goes wrong. They're winning 7. Highest ceiling possible in the world is they're winning 11. And if we're just cutting it honest about saying it never quite goes perfectly right, just as much as it never goes perfectly wrong, I think 9 is the sweet spot. And that's if I had to honestly put a bet down. I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I'm giving them a 9-win season.
Aaron Michalski, 6.5 for the Bears, over under.
Over. I think over. Especially like I said, we may not have names, like especially in the receiver room, but I think that having a competent offensive coordinator, having a coach that knows what he's doing, and Fields coming into his second year and not going to have as many rookie mistakes, there's no reason to think we won't be better than we were last year.
All right, let's head on to the Lions. There's also 6.5. I hate to say it, but I think this is a good play over. I think the Lions are going to be a little sneaky good team. I hate to say, I hope Don Burr's not listening. Michael Brocker's a company on defense. It's not a bad defense, Jordan Silveira. I know you hate to admit it. You love to spar with our buddy Don Burr. 6.5 wins for the Lions, over under.
It's a tough one because I want to be very clear. I love the way that Brad Holmes is building the Detroit Lions. I think that's the way to properly build a team, is building it through the trenches. So I'm all about that. And I'm not even so much of a Jared Goff hater. I think Jared Goff, to me, what he symbolizes is just functional quarterback play. Just a guy that just functions. Not going to throw away a game for you, but he's not going to be lights out. But still, you want to sit here and talk about the Jaguars improved and the Jets. I'm not going to sit here and bet on the Lions until I've seen it. So I think they'll be a scrappy team. I think that they'll find a way to pull off some games. But you're somehow telling me that they're going to pull off 7 wins. How? How? They won? What did they win last year? 3? And we're going to suddenly give them the crown of winning double that because
a lot of those losses were within a touchdown or less.
Yeah, they made them close. So it's not like they were getting blown out. They were
sure some of those, but we're talking about I'm just going to give 2 quick examples. You want to sit here and talk about the 49ers game, the 49ers game is close. So it's no, they pulled George Kittle with the rest of the starters in the third when they were up by 35. Well, the Ravens game was close. Yeah, I mean, because they were sitting there going, let's not just destroy them. Let's save some of our bodies here.
Sure.
And this is the thing, they came back because teams started laying off the gas of it.
Fair enough.
All right. Minnesota Vikings, and I know they're up there.
Well, I didn't get to tell you my Detroit pick.
Oh, sorry, Danny. Go ahead while I find the Vikings.
I'm going to say the Lions it's about right. I'm going to say the Lions are 6-11, 7-10. Probably 6-11.
Like I said, I think they can get to 7 wins. Now the Vikings is priced a little bit lower. It's 9 and 8.5 on FanDuel. They've got some players though on offense for sure. It all depends on Minnesota's defense. Danny, what do you think about the Vikings?
If Cutler had stats like Kirk Cousins, I'd be up here pounding my chest. But I don't like Kirk Cousins. I think Minnesota's about 8-9. I think Green Bay and Chicago are right there at the top of the division, and Minnesota and Detroit are the last 2. But again, maybe I just have my Bears bunker. I'm in there and I'm biased. But I'm not – I don't know. But they do have a new coach and everything. But still, I'm going to say that Minnesota's 3rd in the division.
All right. Jordan Silveira, the Vikings.
Yeah.
9 wins. 9 wins seems doable to me with Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook.
If there's one I could push on, it would be this one. It's spot on. How can I sit there and tell you the Bears are going to win more games than the Vikings? I think they're very similar. So I think 9 is the right number. I don't feel comfortable going heavily one way or the other. So I would push.
Would you rather have Fields or Cousins?
I definitely rather have Fields, but also
me too.
Yeah, well, I'd rather have Justin Jefferson than any of the receivers and Adam.
Well, no, but I'm just saying I agree with you. But I think Fields is going to account for more wins than Cousins. That's my opinion.
No, that's a good point.
Aaron Michalski, the Vikings.
I'm kind of right there with Jordan. I don't know over and under. It seems like it's kind of the right amount. It's kind of weird because it's the Packers typically at the top. Chicago never hasn't been very good. It's Detroit's going to suck. But the Vikings for me are they're like the forgotten team. Like they're just kind of there. You never expect much out of them. But they're, the Lions are always, they're not great, but they'll ruin your day. Like if you're not careful, they're going to sneak up behind you and they're going to get a win, which we saw that last game with the Trubisky era here in Chicago. So the Vikings are just, like I said, for me, they're just kind of there. They're good enough. I think the Vikings, if you want to use them in quarterback terms, are serviceable. So I think about midway, 9 wins seems about right.
Well, the defense for me would be the question with the Vikings. I want to head to Jordan's neck of the woods and talk about the Chargers and Justin Herbert, one of my favorite young quarterbacks, man. I love drafting this guy in fantasy.
Can I tell you guys bye first? I have to go.
Okay, is it too early? All right, Danny. I was hoping to get you on the Chargers, but hey.
I'm sorry, man. Jody's promising me some sweet vagina, so I got to go. No, I wish. I got to go to work. I got.
She's in the chat room too, Dan. She says she loves you and your sexy voice.
And I really like her great, fantastic vagina. Let me just say
that. I hope I can meet her one day, maybe when I come out to Chicago to visit you. But Dan Aguirre is going to save some lives at 911, right, Danny?
Yep, I got to go now, actually.
Take it easy, bro.
Love you. Great show tonight. Thank you.
It's been fun. Let's do it again next week. Aldo's still off, so.
That's right.
Right on, man.
Dan, have a good evening.
All right, and let's head on to the Chargers.
Chargers, right?
Mr. Silveira, your neck of the woods. Have you seen Aldo since he's been in town?
I have not. No.
Okay.
He's been busy partying, having a good time. But
I saw him at the Padres game.
Yeah.
Of course, they lost, but the Chargers, right? They're kind of up and coming too. They made some changes on defense. Vegas a little behind. These numbers are sharp. Over under is 10 wins. So 10-7 for the Chargers with a talent like Austin Eckler and Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen. Over for Jordan Silveira for the Chargers.
Significantly. I let me be clear. I've had this. I'll find it on Twitter if you need the receipts. For a few weeks since kind of free agency and the draft wrapped up. To me, I have the Chargers as a Super Bowl favorite to win it all. And the only reason I would ever back down from that is because I recognize that it's a tough division where they're going to gouge each other's eyes out and make it tough on each other. So if for some reason you told me that they fell out of favor, I get that Buffalo is interesting and all that, but they also have a tough division to play. The only second one, and I don't mean to spoil it, you'll get here, but I am higher on the Colts than probably 95% of the population.
No, I was about to go there next. The Colts, that same number, over 10, over 9.5 to a FanDuel.
We can kind of pair them together. I think I'd go over on both. I like the Colts because I also think it's an easier division to deal with, but sure. Chargers, I don't know how you look at that team and don't see that everything is stocked and ready to go. Their worst problem is probably at right tackle. And they lived with that last year with Storm Norton. And if Asante Samuel wasn't a good enough nickel or he went down, well, here's Bryce Callahan. And, if Derwin goes out, well, now we have JT Woods from Baylor. And, we have Khalil Mack, but if Khalil Mack goes down, we have Kyle Van Noy. And, if, Sebastian Joseph Day goes down, we have Austin Johnson and Morgan Fox. Like, they've literally stocked it to where I don't know where you look at the roster and they don't have multiple answers for whatever happens. So I
on the Chargers tonight. I love it.
I'm going to Chargers training camp is one of the days that it's open. So I'll see.
Very nice. And the Colts, Matt Eberflus's former team, unlike the Bears, they do have a 3 technique. Jordan, break it down for us on the Colts over 10.
Yeah, I think
Matt Ryan at quarterback, right?
I love it. I love it because when you sit there and look at what they've been trying to deal with at quarterback, they've had a rotating carousel of guys that, for whatever reason, have had little flaws. So Carson Wentz and Jimmy Garoppolo are like two of the guys that come immediately to mind. Maybe Jameis Winston a little, but he seemed to kind of get that out of his game, where I just call it like the throw the game, just have a mental fuck up, where for whatever reason they just have a mental error, they throw the game away on some stupid throw. That was the Carson Wentz issue. Then they had Phillip Rivers, the guy that's just old, kind of didn't have the arm anymore, still got them to the playoffs. You get Matt Ryan now, and like people don't realize that the Falcons performed as admirably as they did last year because of Matt Ryan and for no other reason. And you get him there and you say, look, I'm going to give you the best running back you've probably ever played with since maybe Michael Turner. And he's just going to run the ball on Jonathan Taylor with this great offensive line. And I know you're not very fast, but we're going to have this great wall in front of you that's going to protect you. And then, you know how you cut out like Tulio Jones, that fast big X? We're going to give you Alec Pierce, kind of the same type of guy. And then if that doesn't work, you have Michael Pittman. And if that doesn't work, you have two big redwood trees in Mo Alley Cox and Jelani Woods. Like, it's just going to be open season on whoever they play. And then yes, let me be very clear. If there's a negative spot, I do think that they're going to suffer losing Matt Eberflus. And I don't say that just because we're Bears fans. I really like Gus Bradley, though, and I like what they're trying to build, trading out of Rock Ya-Sin for Yannick Ngakoue. So I think that their defense will be scrappy and competitive, just as it was with the Raiders and the Chargers the year before that. But I do think it takes a little step back, but I actually think the offense just takes a massive step forward. So, like I said, to me, they're Nomad said it, Super Bowl bound if they stay healthy. I have the Chargers because I respect them. I think the world of Justin Herbert. But if they're for some reason not making it because they're all just going at each other so hard, who's competing with the Colts in the AFC South? Like, it makes too much sense.
Tennessee.
I'm sorry. Jay Sanders, Eberflus defense got embarrassed by the Jags. I'm going to ask you to kindly go back and watch Bare Necessities, where I went over that game and explained exactly what happened. Incorrect, sir.
If I had to ask you two fellas, which two teams do they have at the top of the list for the most wins over under? Which teams would you say, Aaron?
God damn it. I'm thinking AFC. Was it the West? I'm thinking three teams I could think of would be, God, I don't know about Kansas City anymore, but like the Bills for sure.
The Bills is one.
And the Chargers is the other one I think of.
The other is Jordan Silveira. What do you think the other team is?
For what exactly?
The most wins that Vegas has, the highest over.
For just the AFC?
Nope.
No, I just said
in the NFL.
The teams that I was thinking of were like AFC.
Aaron gave us one. There's one other team that also has the same numbers. The Bills are at 11.5 wins. The other team is
going to have to go Tampa Bay.
That's right. Tampa Bay cannot get one by Jordan Silveira. 11.5 wins. 11.5 for the Buccaneers with that improved defensive line featuring ex-Bear Akeem Hicks and Tom Brady returning, Jordan. 11.5 wins? What do you think?
I know that sounds crazy.
12-5.
I know that sounds crazy, and yes, Tom Brady could fall off a cliff at any moment. But what did they lose? Like, let's look at. So they lost Gronk.
Yeah,
but they also have Cameron Brate, who's a solid tight end. They lost O.J. Howard, wasn't playing for them, and they drafted K-Dot in a Y tight end. So yes, it's something. But Chris Godwin, I know he's coming back from injury, but this is the whole point. Anybody that they lost, the ones that they retained were really the core pieces. Godwin comes back. Ali Marpet's gone, but they trade for one of the best guards in Shaq Mason. Carlton Davis, you could have lost him. He comes back. Leonard Fournette comes back. Like, it's just all of the right pieces. They lose Jason Pierre-Paul, but guess what? Joe Tryon-Shoyinka is an incredible edge player. So, what happens when I'm forgetting if they lost any defensive linemen, but let's just add Akeem Hicks into the play where when Vita Vea is tired, we'll just go ahead and swap Akeem Hicks. Like, it's just – It's a nightmare to deal with that team, and you're just assuming that as long as Tom Brady keeps eating his avocado ice cream and isn't letting Father Time beat him, what's slowing them down?
Right. They do have one of the best pass rushers, too, on the edge, Jordan. Aaron, what do you think? 11.5 wins for the Buccaneers, doable?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm taking the over on that for sure.
12 wins seems pretty doable, Jordan. I agree. The Bills, too, man. Bills are hungry after getting beaten. That one of the best games I've seen in a long time.
Watching that game, it pissed me off so bad. I'm like, they're not even playing the same game as Chicago. Like, they're on a whole, not even just a new level. They're playing an entirely different game, watching the Chiefs and the Bills go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, could you imagine being a fan of a team that, like, oh, they're going to score, and then the other people are going to score, and then we are going to score again? It's just like, I don't remember the last time I felt like we had anything. Last time we played a game, we're like, oh, we can come back. I mean, it's for me, we'd get maybe a score in the first half, that fucking Nagy years. And then, like, if we went, if they started beating us, I'm like, that's it. We're not coming back. There's no rally. Like, there's no fucking fight in this team, especially under Nagy. But, like, when the Bills and the Chiefs were duking it out, like I said, that was something special. Like, that really was, like, next level football.
Dude, that's one of the best games I've seen in a long time. Was that
that
playoff game between the Chiefs and Bills?
It was
freaking amazing.
Stupid. It was just dumb how exciting and how just electric it was watching, and the whole fucking thing was insane.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that may be one of the best games of football in the last 25 years that anybody's
Totally
seen.
agree.
Yeah,
and I like good
Totally agree.
defense, so I hate seeing the defenses wear down like that. But at the same time, it didn't even so much feel like the defenses were wearing out because they were just so tired. It's just great quarterback play.
yeah, exactly.
Just dueling each other. So I mean, and that's I don't know if we're going to talk too much about the Bills, but I know it sounds like maybe I'm down on the Bills because I'm talking so high about the.
I know this is Bears Barroom, but I like to mix in a little NFL.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I
NFL
actually,
talk.
I honestly, Tooch, I mean, this goes a little bit out to the audience, and I don't know, maybe they'll engage and answer this, but something I'm actively working on with Bears Necessities. We talk about the Bears a lot, and every other outlet talks about the Bears a lot. I like to talk about other NFL teams and what other people are doing. So this is exciting for me.
My first show on Bears Barroom was Fantasy Football Goon with my radio son, Joe Mandel. It was the two of us producing fantasy football content for the Bears Barroom. We started in 2017, for those of you who remember way back then. And then we moved to I Have a Stream with Aaron Michalski, Dan Aguirre, and Joe Mandel. And those were some crazy times. Mm-hmm. We had fake commercials and stuff. We broke down Game of Thrones last season, had a blast doing that. Early Super Bowl picks, Aaron, two teams you think could meet each other. I know it's early. We don't know what's going to happen. But if you had to throw an NFC and an AFC team, battle it out in the Super Bowl, what would you say?
Hard for us to think of the NFC team. I'll be perfectly honest. I stay in my own little Bears world. I don't know much of the other teams and how good they are, or how good they're going to be, or how good they've been.
Sure.
I don't even remember. Rams. Is that AFC or is the NFC?
The Rams won it all last year. The NFC.
Then I think Rams.
Bengals.
There's no reason to think the Rams won't be back on top again this year. That's what I thought. God damn it, it's tough because, like I said, the AFC is just stacked.
Go for it. No, I'll be quick, Aaron. Because this is like what I think you're leading to, which is one of my biggest things where people look at Dan and I like we're crazy for being so high on the Bears, but that's the problem when you think about the NFC. It's outside of the Rams,
pretty open.
The Buccaneers, the Packers. Who else? I mean, yes, if you really want to throw the Cowboys or something into it, you can. Yeah. But even then, and I know the Eagles went last year, they're better, so fine. I get it, but even if I'm grasping here and I'm going, okay, it's Minnesota, Green Bay, Dallas, Philly, Tampa Bay, and I guess if you want to get super cush, you could go, okay, Rams and the Cardinals. I know you could say the 49ers. We'll see what happens because their offensive line is significantly worse, and they've got kind of a rookie in Trey Lance. There's your 7, and how many seeds do we have? 8?
8, yeah, right? 8?
Yeah.
8 playoff
teams. So now, I mean, who else is fighting for? I'm being generous here, given it's like the Vikings and the Cardinals. Why is that 8th not the Bears or the 49ers or one of those teams fighting for it? Who's there? Who's going to be there at the end?
Could be. So I guess circle back around. I think Rams. God damn it, it's tough for the Buccaneers. I think Bills for me. I got to say Bills for the AFC. But then as far as the other two, it could be Rams or Bucks coming back again, like Jordan illustrated with all the different people they have on that roster. It's just
they got the GOAT too. I mean, it's hard for me not to see a repeat of the NFC Championship with the Buccaneers and Rams right now. But man, I'll tell you, the Bills I think are going to be tough to beat. Man, they've got Von Miller, I think too, right now. Jordan.
Yep. Yeah, somebody just dropped that in the chat actually.
Right.
That to me, the Von Miller move is. Don't get me wrong, they're paying him a ton, and they've even made some other moves that are interesting, like Jamison Crowder being added to the mix, and James Cook, and OJ Howard. I mean, they've done a lot of good things. But to me, what the Von Miller move represents is like the final effort. I mentioned it earlier, like pushing the cart forward just enough to inch past the finish line. Like they were close enough, and what they really lacked is, can somebody get Patrick Mahomes on the fucking ground so that we're not sitting here going back and forth with each other.
Yeah.
And we're leaving the game up to a freaking coin toss. This was them going, look, Vaughn is older, but he still showed so much juice late last season.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, and this goes not so much for you guys, but because we all watch football here, but for anybody in the audience, if you're not wanting to watch Bears, please go watch the Rams and Buccaneers game in the playoffs. Von Miller was whooping ass and taking names in that game. And this is an example of them going, look, we've got AJ Epinesa, we've got Greg Rousseau, we've got all these other guys. We don't even need you to be Vaughn 100% of the time, but we're just going to put you in little spots and spurts. And I just want you to light the world on fire, Vaughn. And that's what I think. If the Chargers were smart, they should do the same with Khalil Mack.
Same with, like you said, to the Bucks and Hicks.
Yeah, like that's the idea is these players are still dominant. And somebody in the chat mentioned earlier, like Mack's not even going to be able to make it past 10 games. Fine. If that's the case, then use him in a sparing role.
Yeah, I don't know about that. He had surgery on that foot. That's been the reason he's been out so much for us. So
couldn't he just come in on third down?
That's what, and it's let me be very clear. It's a little different with Khalil Mack because really what Joseph, or maybe it's not Joseph. God, I always forget the Chargers head coach's name. Anyways, the situation there with Khalil Mack is that they're looking for a guy that's really setting the edge in the run game. And that's really what they were missing is they play too high, which means you're conceding one in the box. The run fits are always a little easier. So you need the front four to really play gap and a half, set the edge. So that's Khalil Mack's role a little more than just being a pass rusher where Vaughn is like, hey, just get after the quarterback. But it's still that idea. You have an older player that they're dominant and they're a little older. So let's use them a little more sparingly and get 100% out of them, which kind of even goes back to we'll tie this into the Bears, and we always find a way to do this. That kind of goes back to the Robert Quinn situation with the Bears. Even if you ship Robert Quinn out, everybody goes, well, what about the pass rush? And they don't realize that in this defense, it's not about having – yes, it's about having the Jimmies and the Joes, but it's not about having these true all-stars on the defensive line because you look at the Colts, and yes, they drafted a ton of guys, but – it was Kamoko Toure and Ben Benogu and Kwity Paye and Tyquan Lewis and Al-Qadim Muhammad and DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart. And we can go down the list. So the whole thing is predicated on shuffling these guys out, keeping their legs fresh. And that's the idea with Khalil Mack and all these other guys.
Right on. Now, it's interesting to me that Vegas has the Broncos at 10 wins with Russell Wilson in there. I mean, that seems a little high, but you never know. I mean, like we say, there's a lot of quarterbacks who are in new situations around the NFL this year. And I always say a change of scenery sometimes, does a guy good.
Well, like we talked about so many times, everybody leave Chicago.
That's the hope. It usually works. Whenever a guy from Chicago Bears leaves, he does awesome.
See, you know what's funny is maybe I'm wrong. I'm not. It's not like I'm down on the Broncos. It's not like I think they're going to win 5 games, but I legitimately have concerns about how much of that was Pete and how much of that was Russell in that last year. And yes, there were some dysfunction there. They clearly wanted to split ways, but Russell's getting to an age where he's not as nimble as anymore to be able to escape hits. And he's always been a guy that doesn't throw well over the middle. So yes, they had these outside receivers in Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy and Tim Patrick, but then you just start adding in other things. Like, if I have to be fair, I'm not like the hugest Luke Getsy fan, and I'm going to say the same thing about the Broncos with their head coach and Nate Hackett. I mean, we don't even know who Nate Hackett really is as an offensive play caller, and then you add in Ajiro Evero, the defensive coordinator, who's a Vic Fangio acolyte from that tree of coaching. And it should look okay because it was previously Vic Fangio. Now we're getting Ajiro Evero. But you still don't know quite what you have there.
Right. Well, I want to talk about what I think is it's hard not to look at this over here. And I'm talking about the Raiders at 8.5. All they have to do is get to 9 wins, 9-8. And they've got Devontae Adams at the tight end. They've got Josh Jacobs, who's pretty good. And Derek Carr, man, I mean, he's kind of a guy that flies under the radar, but he's like a 4,000-yard passer almost every year. What do you think about the Raiders? I kind of like that bet. I also like the Saints over 8. I think that might be a decent bet too. What do you guys think? Jordan, what do you think?
Sure. With the Raiders, what's funny to me is I actually am pretty high on them. I mean, we'll still see what it looks like with Josh McDaniels, but Derek Carr has really kind of just come on in a situation where he used to be kind of Mr. Checkdown Charlie, wasn't really taking deep shots. The thing about Derek Carr, and you either love it or you hate it, but he's a guy that takes calculated risks and calculated shots. And so what that is I'm not throwing the ball deep unless I really, truly in my bone to bones feel like I've got a 70-30 chance here. He's not taking 50-50 chances, but you add in kind of what they're building. And the only roadblock I see with Las Vegas is the offensive line. But hopefully with Devontae Adams, they're working that RPO game that Aaron Rodgers used so much with Derek Carr, Darren Waller. What I really think you're building is this potent attack. And this is what we didn't really get to talk about with the Bears, but you can preach to me all day that, Darnell Mooney is the number one guy. But in this league, and this is just, we're talking about receivers, but this goes anywhere. The league completely bases itself on, I need to take away your best thing and show me you can beat me with number 2 or number 3. And this is what the Raiders have finally built, which is, hey, before it was just Waller, being so good in the division, so tough. And that's why I said they're going to cannibalize each other. But when you have these triplets where I can kind of beat you deep down the seams with Waller, and he'll kind of be the guy that outbodies you, and then I can move Devontae Adams around from the slot to outside to running RPOs to running option routes to being an X receiver to being a Z. Oh, and then by the way, I have my short little shifty slot that
Hunter Renfrow.
That ate up Kenny Moore, that ate up Xavier Howard. I mean, we're talking really good corners, and Renfrow took their lunch from him. So I know no man's not a fan. He's like, Russell's that guy, but I am higher on the Raiders than I am in the Broncos right now.
Yeah, I think that's you get the Raiders over 8 at FanDuel. That's a decent bet. I want to talk about the other team I mentioned, the Saints. In that division, which is really just the Buccaneers, man. There's not, right? The Panthers. I don't expect. They've got Baker Mayfield, come on, and the Falcons, right, with Marcus Mariota.
I like the Saints.
I think the Saints can get to 8 wins, 7.5 in DraftKings. What do you think, Aaron? The Saints.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I don't know much about the Saints. I don't really know who they got. This
over 8 at DraftKings, 8 wins in that division.
I don't even know who's on the Saints. I don't know, bro. Like I said, I'm not real good at this game because I don't know much about the other teams around the league. So this is more for Jordan.
I can fill in a little bit for
Aaron. And then we'll do one more before we hit the streaming TV real quick, and then we'll sign off. Go ahead, break down the Saints very quickly.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'll jump in briefly to the Falcons. I think the Falcons are going to be a little more spicy than people realize, kind of like the Lions in that respect. Just big receivers and Kyle Pitts and Drake London. But I don't think they're going to be a real player. As far as the Panthers, I think they're a mess in their quarterback situation. But with the Saints, I'm not telling you that they're going to all of a sudden unseat the Bucs or anything like that. But Jameis Winston was playing all right before he got hurt last year. And I know that they lost Sean Payton, but everything else is pretty much status quo there. Dennis Allen was their DC. Now he's their head coach. The defense is just continuing to get better with some of the players that they have. When Cam Jordan gets a little older, they bring in Peyton Turner. And, Demario Davis is still one of the best inside linebackers. And so the defense shouldn't take too much of a step back. And then you think about the offense. Well, Sean Payton's not there. Yeah, but they also got one of the most polished route runners and Z's in the draft, and Chris Olave. And then you add in Alvin Kamara should be back full-time. Michael Thomas should be back. And then you have Jameis, and it's just like, hey, don't make mistakes. And the last thing I'll put about that is people all think it's all Sean Payton, and it may be. We will see. I think Sean Payton's an incredible coach. But Pete Carmichael has been the OC there for Drew Brees and now Jameis Winston forever. And nobody ever talked about him because it was the Sean Payton show. But if Pete Carmichael really did have some of the magic sauce to that offense, then it shouldn't take as much of a step back as you think. And it could be one of those crazy offenses. I see Steven saying Alvin Kamara's going to jail. Nomad saying the Falcons will be bottom.
Michael Thomas has a shot at being the comeback player of the year, man. I'm just saying, man. Before he was hurt at one time, and then kind of didn't. He's been battling injuries, but man, he was unstoppable, man. He had like 120 catches one year. But I want to ask you guys, which team do you think is the bottom, the one that teams think won't win the most games, at the very bottom with an over-under of 4.5 wins?
I was going to say, you're sure it's not the Bears the way the media's been talking about us? But no,
Bears are 6.5.
No, I know.
6.5.
I'm going to say the Lions or the Texans.
Oh, there you go. It is The Texans and Lovey.
Yeah.
A fucking disrespect to Lovie Smith and that team too. I'm not telling you like Nomad was saying the Falcons would be bottom dwellers. I just very much view the Texans and the Falcons to be those scrappier teams. It doesn't mean that they're going to win many games, but think if we're talking highly about what the Lions were able to achieve last year, like they were always in those games tight. I saw the Texans last year, and yes, it was under David Culley, but they also were in those games where they beat the Titans. They beat some real teams, and their defense has gotten significantly better. If Davis Mills, I'm a big Pep Hamilton believer, so I think that Pep is going to get the best out of Davis Mills. This is not me telling you they're going to win 10 games, but it means that I think they're going to be scrappier than not. And just the same way I think the Falcons with the big receivers that they have, and Desmond Ridder, who's willing to push the ball, and they've got some pass rushers now. I think that I like you want a team that I think is really going to bomb out and bottom out. I look at a team like God, I just had them on the tip of my tongue. Oh, the Panthers. I think the Panthers are a team. Yep. I think the Panthers have a lot of good pieces, but I just think that for whatever reason, well, it's the whole. You know what it is? It's the entire equation. And I say this as a Bears fan. We know this feeling. It's that coach who's on the hot seat and he's doing whatever he can to shovel water out of the boat, even though it's filling up. And so I'm going to trade for Sam Darnold, but then, oh, crap, I'm going to re-sign Cam Newton. And then the owner's pushing to get a quarterback. So now I'm going to bring in Baker Mayfield, but then we're also going to trade draft picks for Matt Corral. And all of a sudden you've got this nightmare where maybe it's Baker, maybe it's Darnold, but we both know they're really not the answer. So then we throw in Corral when it's too early. CMC is the only way that offense really pushes along, and he always gets hurt. Like it's a situation where that one looks like it's just about to be a car bomb that explodes.
Yeah, a lot of desperation moves. But boy, Mayfield and Darnold were like 1 and 2 quarterbacks selected in that draft, I think, right?
I like Baker. Baker's good. It's just with what he's got DJ Moore and who else? Like Robbie Anderson's fine. But, like the hardest thing, and we're getting a tiny 30-second tangent is, and I would love to talk about this with anybody deeper on, maybe we'll do it on a show, but to me, the Justin Fields forever belonged in a Panthers jersey. Well, I'm glad he didn't, but I'm telling you, he forever belonged in a Panthers jersey to be the Superman Part 2, the guy that wears number 1 from Georgia, African-American quarterback, athlete, leader that leads that team, and he's throwing to big targets like Terrace Marshall and has DJ Moore and has CMC out the backfield and a defense with Phil Snow that's just vicious. Like that is the team that should have had Justin Fields. It just never happened.
Right now, for the Texans, offensively in the draft, they did pretty good with I think Damian Pierce, is that his name, and Treylon Burks.
Right? Treylon Burks is a Titan, but
a Titan. Okay, sorry, wrong team, but right.
So they got Thomas Booker as their 3 tech.
Okay.
Oh, we need a 3 tech. Well, guess what? Lovey needs a 3 tech too, and he picked the guy I wish the Bears have in Thomas Booker. They added Jalen Petrie. They added Derek Stingley. They added a guard in Kenyon Johnson. They've added a Damian Pierce who's just a bruiser at running back. Like
led the NCAA in broken tackles.
Yeah, like it's just one of those things where I know that it's easy to pick on them, but I have a hard time believing it. So David Culley could have been the answer. I'm not saying it's not. I think he got a raw deal. But what nobody wants to admit, though, is remember, this is the same story we had last year. The Texans were supposed to be the worst team. And yes, they had a bad record. I get it. Just like the Lions, they were, second, third pick? But while everybody was giving the praise to David Culley, Lovie Smith had that defense rocking and rolling with a bunch of 1-year contracts that were just kind of pushing along, which should be hopeful for Bears fans as well, because guess what? We got a guy from that same, a bunch of 1-year contracts pushing along. So I look at it and say, now he's got the full ownership and control, and he's continued to build that defense in his idea, his nature, his beliefs, and then said, I know my role, that I'm just defense and I'm a CEO head coach. Hey, Pep, you handle the offense completely. I want nothing to do with it. Whereas I think David Culley, as a former wide receivers coach, was trying to orchestrate some of that offense. And to me, I cannot begin to express how much I believe in Pep Hamilton and his ability to develop quarterbacks.
Right. Well, former Bears coaches down there making some waves. We got lots of Bears news today. We talked a lot of over-unders. We're going to talk, like we always do, a little streaming TV. And if people want to tune out now, don't want to hear about the Stranger Things finale, season 4 finale, go ahead and tune out now. But have you both seen the Stranger Things finale?
Nah, man, I haven't seen past season 2.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
It's just
okay.
Can we spoil it, Aaron, or do you care?
No, man, rock and roll. For me, I lost interest so quick.
All right. So
maybe here, it's just a vehicle for nostalgia is all it was to me at a certain point. Like it didn't seem like it was doing anything.
So I grew up in that time. I was in high school. I graduated from high school in 1986. So like this is like candy for me. It's the music, the carpeting, the walls, the cars, everything, all of the hairstyles, the clothes.
Yeah.
For me, it's like a walk down memory lane. But behind it, there's a great story with great characters. You have the sheriff who adopts the superpower girl, 4 misfit friends, a la Stand By Me. You have Dungeons and Dragons playing a hero or a new character, Eddie. Boy, it was a lot to like. You have 80s child star Winona Ryder, who still looks great, by the way. Jordan, your thoughts on the finale? And obviously, there's going to be a season 5. I want to talk about the kids after I get your thoughts on the finale.
Sure. And I will J2K. I'll try to do you a solid here. You said no spoilers, but also I'm going to try and dance around it. But if you really want nothing about it, just leave and come back when you've seen it, because it's hard to try to dance around it. But
yeah,
Weirdly, I didn't love this season as much as the last season with the mall, Starcourt or whatever.
For sure.
I understood what they were trying to go for, and they've said it numerous times. I'm not like, this is not my original idea, that they were trying to go for the kids are teens now. They're in high school. This is supposed to be a little bit more Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street. I get that. I don't even have a problem with Vecna. He's fine. I just thought that in many ways, and this has been a bigger complaint of mine, they are too scared to kill off characters. And I hate this argument, this trope, because
you read my mind because it's in my notes, but go ahead.
It's this weird trope where, like, because Game of Thrones did it, everybody should be doing it. That's not why I'm saying it, but where it comes from is this feeling, and they've already done this a few times, where I'm like, that guy shouldn't. Hopper. I will ask you all, the people that watch Stranger Things, to go back and watch the season finale of last season. When Hopper is in the room with the radiator beam or whatever, there are people wearing suits who disintegrate into dust, and somehow he falls down a metal thing and somehow survives. But by the way, Winona Ryder walks out onto the plank with Murray to look for Hopper after. Somehow she doesn't look down and see him. Like, it's just, there's a lot of bullshit that happens in the show that doesn't make a lot of sense. But the issue to me is the finale, as good as it is and as riveting as it was to go from Russia to Lenora, which is supposed to be California, to Hawkins, Indiana, it felt like a little bit too much, where we're swapping from character to character to try. And in some ways, it felt like they were just trying to tie ins where they could, where this isn't too much of a spoiler. He's a douchebag character, but the character that is like the boyfriend of the cheerleader who is chasing down the kid.
Jason.
Yeah, where he just gets like shredded at the end because like, well, we didn't really know what to do with him, so we'll just have the split the world just wreck. Like it's just, I don't know. It was good, but to me, one last thing
I kind of like that kid. He chewed up a lot of scenery, overacting and stuff. But hey,
yeah. And the last thing I'll say here, I just thought was interesting because I totally hear that like vehicle for nostalgia take, but I guess I've often called myself an old soul, so maybe that's why I connect with it. But I was born in '92. Like I don't have any real reference point to this stuff.
Yeah, I was born in '88.
And that is so weird to me because I lived through that period. I'm like, I can't. It's like it's almost impossible for me to fathom that you guys don't get where I came from. But hey,
I love it though, Tooch. Like, when he pulls out the wrist rocket, like it's just such a cool name, and they've got like Rock Me Like a Hurricane when Billy's pulling in the first time of the show. The music is great. Some of the references are good. I mean, Robbie's talking about how great Eddie was as a character, and
I love that character.
It feels like I don't know. A strong season. This is the best thing to me about Stranger Things is that even at its worst, I still think it's riveting and interesting and great. It just to me wasn't as. I promise, I'll shut the hell up after this. The thing that really didn't seal it for me is as dire and dangerous as it's supposed to feel. it never quite felt, to me at least, as dangerous as the stakes in season 3, where like Elle is supposed to be Mrs. Superpower.
Yeah.
And she's got, this beast that's breaking into the cabin, and it's like injecting her leg with that like mucus goo or whatever. Remember that monster, the Mind Flayer? So that to me felt much, much more dire than whatever's been going on in the most recent season.
Yeah. For me, okay, look, I agree with everything you say, because even on a bad day, Stranger Things is one of the best shows out there. And this season, while season 4 may not have been the strongest season, the special effects were the best of all 4 seasons. It was amazing for a television show. I mean, they sunk a lot of money in it, but I have to agree with you. I think that maybe it went one season too long. Like this is the Duffer Brothers got off of where they thought, a lot like Lost, and Lost extended it. We didn't want to do 5 seasons or 7 seasons or whatever it happened to be. Game of Thrones, we didn't know where we were going after 6 seasons. It kind of had the same feel to me, and I don't like the volume 2 was only 2 episodes. One was 1 hour long or an hour and a half, and the other was 2.5 hours long. It was like it could have been split up into 4 episodes. Jesus, I think Christ. I would have been a lot nicer. I didn't. 2.5 hours is a little long for me for that finale. I just felt like it could have been divvied up a little bit better into cliffhangers, and that's just my thoughts. Do I recommend watching the show? Sure, it's probably one of the best shows that's come along in quite a long time. And that's all I'll say about it. I don't want to spoil anything. I want to say one last thing about the kids, and that this past season, season 4, they got ugly. I mean, they're not attractive anymore. I mean, like Mike has got this gigantic nose, and he's not attractive anymore. Dustin, now he's just kind of like, kind of ugly, but I love the character, I love the actor, but and Max too did not grow into anyone that looks, as Eddie looking at all. They all kind of got, I don't know. Maybe it's like they grew up too fast and grew into their body.
The problem is, Tooch, is like they can't hide some of the actual age of these guys. So Caleb McLaughlin, who's a Lucas, is showing like tons of acne on his face, and he actually has a goatee.
L too.
Yeah, L. Then you have Will, who's probably my least favorite character. I know, maybe a hot take, but he had like beard stubble from shaving, and it's like, the kid's a freshman. He's got a full beard stubble that you can see. Like, it can't quite get it. Just, and this is, I know it's not their fault. It was COVID that delayed the filming and all that. But it feels like you've really got to kick it into high gear. They said it's one more season, so presumably you can't even kick it that far into the future. You need to get filming it and wrap it up soon before these kids look like they're already 20, 21. Let's not get them before they're 28.
Right. And I mean, I can't, I mean, next year when season 5 comes around, they're going to be almost mid-20s. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it going to be the college years? I mean, I kind of wish they had wrapped it after season 3.
It's like the worst villain that takes like 3 decades to do it its plan. It's like, this fucking thing is the slowest progressing bad guys in the history of TV.
And that's Aaron's so spot on, because like that's one of the issues with the show that's a little strange is you've like I don't know if you haven't watched season 1, and I'm sorry, no man, I promise you should still watch it. It's worth your time. There's like just like certain characters that I'm not even gonna tell you what happened with them, but like Billy was a great character, other people great characters, but you should watch it. But it's just one of those things that
I forget Bob. Bob was a great character.
Bob was fucking great. Yeah. Like, so this is the thing, is there's certain things about it that just don't make a lot of sense. So we can go from the very start. So one of the things that made Stranger Things, why I got into it, is, and it lost this mystique to me, is it was really enticing when you didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
What is going on with Will? And then they've got the cadaver in the cadaver body, where Hopper cuts it open, finds out it's stuffed with cotton. And so then it's like, okay, so it's this one creature. It's the one Demogorgon that comes out, and it's like killing all these people, and it's got the kids in the classroom at the end. And then Elle comes in and it's just like, ugh, throws it against the wall. The fight's completely over. She somehow says goodbye to Mike, and then she just walks back through the portal and is back into their world. It just, there's some inconsistencies with a lot of this. And then they've tried to level it up to say, well, what if it's like demo dogs? But then the demo dogs actually they're like a smaller version of the Demogorgon, and then that was supposed to be more deadly. Then they moved to the Mind Flayer, but then supposedly Vecna's more important than this big all-knowing Mind Flayer. And then they bring back the Demogorgon in Russia. Like it doesn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah. Well, Steven, what I'm trying to say is they grew up and they didn't grow into attractive young adults or young.
I mean, I'll tell you what,
20-somethings.
Nancy's got it going on, but
yeah, Nancy's hot. Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with season 5. I guess I'll throw a question to you, Tooch, as somebody who watches it. Do you have any of the fan relationships in the show that you're hoping to see? Like, I'll give you an example. Originally I had wanted Nancy and Jonathan to be together. I've officially flipped back. Like, no. Get Nancy and Steve back.
Yeah, I was too. At the end, I was rooting for Nancy and Steve. I was like, Steve really he was such a dick in season 1. He turned out to be a hero, as you get to through the rest of the seasons. But yeah, I mean, Jonathan turned out to just kind of be like I don't know, just a deadbeat stoner for season 4, and then all of a sudden he comes back and he's like, I'm back, Yeah. But I mean, meanwhile, Steve was kicking ass with baseball bats, axes, and all this shit. It's like, Jonathan, who?
Yeah, no, exactly.
But yeah, I'm with you there too.
Well, they
always wanted Hopper and Joyce to get together, of course. Yeah. And I did appreciate the fact that we got to see a little flash of Winona's boobs and bras. They're quite larger than you would expect. But if you do watch the season 4 finale, you'll have that to look forward to. But I want to ask Aaron what he's been watching lately.
The Boys,
season 3 or 4?
3 just
season
ended.
3.
Yeah. Yep,
right.
Season 3 just ended.
What do I always say about The Boys, Aaron?
Homelander is a dick.
He is a dick.
He is more than
God
a dick.
damn it.
He's a fucking monster. I don't know how far you're into it. Like, he kind of takes over shit at a certain point. And if you don't play ball and you don't do it, he just done axes you. He's just straight up he's just killing soups if they don't serve his purpose. Right. Man,
someone heckled him in the crowd in season 3 and he just
Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy 2 is so fucking legit. It's so dope. I fucking love The Boys.
Jordan, you don't watch The Boys, right?
I don't. I need to. I'm just like, man, I gotta tell you.
Good. Season 1 was fantastic. I haven't gotten to season 3 yet, but I'm looking forward to it. I know it's been good. But I recently watched The Terminal List with Chris Pratt. Man, I finished that really quick, man. It was really good.
Is that a show or is that a movie?
It's a series. It's like 8 episodes. It's a kind of one of those
is it
mystery one season that's it. It's one and done. Yep. Chris Pratt is a Navy SEAL, and there's a bunch of intrigue and double crosses and money, offshore accounts and shell companies. Okay. At the center of it is a bunch of Navy SEALs who were may possibly have been the subject of an experiment unwittingly, to super soldier type experiment. So it's really good, man.
All right, you got me in. Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, it's excellent, man, and has a lot of twists, has a lot of action, has a lot of great just like character development too. You'll get into. I thought it was really good, man. It's called
check it out.
Terminal List on Amazon Prime. Jordan, anything new that you've been watching before we sign off another Bears Barroom Bare Your Soul show?
This is something I'm bad at. Is I need to watch more TV because I'm so far behind. I haven't seen Ozark. I haven't seen different show. No, I know I need to. This is where I'm going to tell you.
Ozark is freaking killer, man.
I've turned to Queen's Gambit. That is, I figured
that's awesome too.
Yeah, I just started that because I figured it's one and done. I can get in and get out, and then move on to like an Ozark or a bigger show. I felt like I put a ton of time in just kind of binging through Stranger Things. And I was like, let me get a quicker experience. So working through Queen's Gambit right now, and then
nice.
Outside of that, I mean, everybody. I promise I'm not trying to toot my own horn too much, but this is where I should watch more TV. Is I'm frankly too busy and too much of a nerd with.
I hear you.
With football, I'm trying to constantly at the moment I'm trying to even figure out what we're doing for Bare Necessities in 2 days, and so it's just spending a lot of time just eating, breathing, sleeping football.
For sure. So Nomad's got The Bear he recommends. My brother just called me and said I need to watch this one. I have not seen it yet, but it is about a chef who's like a very talented, fine cooking chef who inherits his brother's sandwich shop, and it's actually a Chicago Italian beef sandwich shop on Orleans. I think it's Mr. Beef, but anyways, he goes to run his brother's sandwich shop, and that's called Bear. And I'm not sure where Bear is. Maybe Nomad can tell us. I think it's Netflix. I don't know though. But Aaron,
Hulu.
Hulu. Okay, Hulu's Bear.
Yeah,
great. All right. And anything else there, Aaron? You want to recommend any movies or before we sign off?
I'm trying to think. Been pretty obsessed with The Boys lately. That's over, so now I got to find something. So maybe I'll try the Terminal List. Other than that, not a whole heck of a lot that I've been watching. That's not just kind of like mindless stuff. There's a new season of the show Alone. I'm a big fan of that show. That's a really good show.
Right. See a lot of talk about Alone on Twitter.
Yep, big fan of Alone.
I'll watch that one then.
I finished that one. JTK Larson Out of Range. We talked about that one.
Yeah, that was
That's
great.
A super good one.
Yeah.
I don't think season 2's been announced yet, which is freaking ridiculous since everybody I've talked to is nuts about it.
Right. I did watch Obi-Wan, Mr. Shorty. I liked it. I'm a Star Wars nut, man. I was 9 years old when Star Wars, the very first one, came out. I saw it 9 times, 1977. I was 9 years old. I used to ride my little bike, my paper route bike up to the Ogden 6 Theater in Naperville. And, man, I couldn't get enough of the very first Star Wars movie. I paid to see it 9 times. Man, 9 times.
Boy.
That was crazy back then. Star Wars, the very first one, in its heart is a disco movie, I think. It was at the height of disco. But, I know y'all find me crazy for saying that. Next time, watch the very first Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, and think of disco. You'll see what I'm talking about. Anyways, Jordan, any last things? Let's plug Bare Necessities. What's going on next week?
Yes, sir. So Bare Necessities, Thursday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, every Thursday, constantly, I cannot tell the audience this enough, constantly soliciting feedback on what you want to see. Admittedly trying a little different this week. Planning on having, who's in the chat here, Mr. Shorty, join me Thursday to discuss some Bears topics as we move to a little bit more of just discussion about football philosophy, football topics, and then eventually we'll move back to film. Maybe I'll kind of break down some N'Keal Harry, as I know that's kind of the talk of the town. It's hot right now.
Cool.
But, always, like I said, just soliciting feedback, whatever you as Barflies want to see, and any, again, feedback, positive, negative, I don't care. I just want to make sure it's the best content for you all that are watching it. So please, if you're interested in just deeper football takes, I've already got 2 episodes.
Hell yes.
Episode 1, Larry Whittam. Episode 2, Matt Eberflus defense.
I have to usually catch it on the rewind because 10 p.m. that's a little late for an old man like me. I'm already past my bedtime.
I'll tell you what, Tooch. You find a way to get into Aldo's ear and tell him to move me up just a bit. I obviously can't go so early because I have work, and when you guys are out of work, I'm still in work in Pacific. But even 8 p.m. is late for me, where I'm like, I know it's late at 10. I'm getting done at 10 when it's midnight for you guys. So if you moved up a little, I'd prefer it. But
all right.
Yeah. So.
And you're talking about a 50-year-old man who just scheduled his shingles vaccine. I know Cliff Victoria might also have scheduled his. I recommend it, Cliff, if you did. But Nomad Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime. I enjoyed it. Aaron did not like it so much, but I read all 15 books. So
that seems to be the consensus. As anybody who's read it likes
words.
It, but if you haven't, then you don't like it.
Thank you very much, Cliff. And we're about to sign off here. Aaron, any shout outs before we go?
No, just to Aldo for letting me back on the network again here, hanging out with you and Dan, and just like I said, if you have me, I'll be back next week, same time.
All right, we probably will. Jordan, if you can come back next week,
sir.
Let's have another little party like with Dan Aguirre. And I want to thank Aldo. I hope Aldo enjoys the show. It seems the chat room liked it too. For Tooch, Jordan, Aaron, and Dan Aguirre, we'll be signing off now. As soon as I can find, Jordan, if I can find that close.
Yeah.
I got it. All right, Barflies, I love y'all. Good night.
Thank you for listening to Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls. Make sure you subscribe to the Barroom Network and you give us a rating on iTunes. Until next week, my name is Nomse. Bear down.